it, because it's like, I mean, we can make our comments, and then
Yeah.
if it's already covered by our ordinances, then it is, and if it isn't, it's our suggestion.
Yeah, okay,
But,
very good.
Oh,
is this another one?
no.
Oh, Kathy.
Where are you sitting? Next to you. Don't exist. That was, that's all good.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
Okay, so here I have a question regarding these two applicants. That's not in our files then.
No, but we're gonna speak about.
But, okay, I need your help to tell me this. So I didn't go into work today. Oh. So which one is person one and person two? Okay, okay. Yes, I know. I just wanted to know which was which. And I don't even want to say much about two. I'll sort of read the salient attributes, because then if you start reading what is there, then everybody knows exactly who it is. I mean, that's like a joke to say person number two.
Exactly.
Who, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I know who that is.
And David says hello.
Oh, yes, tell him hello too. That's like we have to take care of business and run home.
That's right.
We don't have this friendliness at this meeting.
It's a reasonably busy night here, but that's that. Yeah. Well, and then it depends how much time we devote to review of these other documents. Okay. There's mostly, I thought I had things pretty well covered. Now I'm trying to remind myself what couple of things. My watch.
6:30 on the digital.
Okay. I'll get there. Okay, call the meeting to order. It's starting time. So we begin with roll call. Drew Germanowski, chairman, is here. Vice Chairman Jennifer Helton.
Here.
Secretary Kathy McGovern.
Here.
Laura Ray, voting member.
Here.
Alan Johnson Jr., a voting member. Here. Chad Heimbecker, voting member.
Here.
Russell Sutton.
Here.
Voting member. Janine Bonham is not here. Winfield Clark, non-voting member.
I'm here.
Kurt Balch, non-voting member.
Here.
Carol Schneider, staff. And Wallace.
Here.
Okay.
Hi, Russ. Hi, Al.
Very good. So with that, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we had no executive session. EAC Junior Counsel, Wallace, do you have any report or anything to share?
Nothing really.
Okay. That's often the case, so given that it's your second meeting and you're wondering. Okay, so new business, with respect to something that we've discussed several times, a road salt testing program. Jennifer Latsko from the Lehigh Valley Watershed Coalition and Paul Tucker from the Saucon Creek Watershed Association are here tonight. Thank you both for coming to give us a presentation on road salt testing. And Make sure to use the microphone, please. That makes it easier for Carol and everybody.
Yeah, you're up now.
Right at the beginning.
So, hi everybody. Actually, I'm from the Little Lehigh Watershed Stewards. So our group is out west of Allentown. And also, we've started something new, which is called Pennsylvania Road Salt Action, which is a statewide program for reducing road salt usage in Pennsylvania. So thank you for inviting us here tonight.
Can you tilt the mic up,
Oh, is
please?
it not going? I can't tell.
It's on, you just have to move the microphone up.
Move it up.
Just tilt it up.
Towards your,
Physically lift it up.
Okay.
Or that.
As long as I can do the mic drop at the end. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Where was I? So tonight we're talking about reducing road salt usage. One thing I'd like to just say before I start is wherever I go at this time of the year, I kind of have an eye for road salt everywhere. It's kind of awful in a way because everywhere I'm looking at it. And I will say this much, and Paul here agreed with me. As I walked in through the parking lot here tonight, it was one of the best parking lots I've seen anywhere because there's not all kinds of salt around the edges on those steps. It looks as though an appropriate amount's being put down. And also on the paved surfaces. If you go to some places, like I have a Wegmans near me, and it's just coated thick white, you've seen that? It's not like that out there. So whoever's doing that parking lot is doing a nice job. So that's nice to hear. You can go ahead. So this is what we're talking about tonight. First of all, the causes and impacts of road salt pollution. And then Paul's going to talk about a study that was done in the Saucon Creek of chloride pollution. Then I'm going to talk about best management practices, things that municipalities can do to significantly reduce the amount of salt they're using. And finally, we're going to take some questions. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk about causes and impacts of salt pollution. Go ahead. So this graph here shows the amount of salt that's been put down on the roads since 1975. And it goes till 2017. You can basically see that it's been rising at an exponential rate, and it's essentially doubled over the past 50 years. Next slide. So why this increase?
Can you
Yeah.
go back, please? Mm-hmm. What, 5 million what?
Those are metric tons.
Tons.
Metric tons, yeah. Okay. So why the increase? Well, first of all, we're seeing a lot more development, things that have roads, parking lots, impervious surfaces, and those all need de-icers in the wintertime. The second thing is there's been an increased fear of liability for slips and falls during that period of time. And finally, a change in expectations. Many people that remember the roads back in maybe the 70s and 80s will remember that the roads at that time were not kept as clear as they are today. Apparently there was some kind of a study in the 1980s that showed that putting down salt on roads made them safer. And around that time, a lot more salt got put down. And the public started to change their expectations. Instead of thinking it was okay to be driving on a bit of snow or walking on a bit of snow, today everybody thinks that everything should be blacktop like the day after the snowstorm. And it's not really a reasonable thing to be expecting. Next slide, please. So the main de-icing chemicals that are used are sodium chloride, which is rock salt. And then there's also magnesium chloride and calcium chloride. Those are used at lower temperatures, okay? But the main one that's used is sodium chloride. Notice they all contain chloride, and what happens is when they dissolve in water, they separate into those two ions. So sodium and chloride, they separate into. Can you go to the next one, please? This poster from Salt Watch shows it only takes 1 teaspoon of salt to permanently pollute 5 gallons of water. Next slide. And this diagram here, this pie chart, shows where the sources of salt are. This is from New Hampshire, okay, but we can reasonably expect that it's pretty similar in Pennsylvania. And you can see that over 50% of the salt is coming from parking lots, about 27% from municipal roads, state roads about 9%, and then after that there's some smaller sources. Salt piles, 7%, and things like water softeners, food waste, atmospheric deposition, and private roads. But by far and away, the biggest source of road salt is actually parking lots. And those are the ones that are being serviced by private contractors, you know. And right now there's no kind of regulation on these people. Anybody can just put a plow on the front of their truck and a salt spreader on the back and go spreading salt. And there's a lot of people doing it who have no clue what they're doing. Here in Pennsylvania, there are some other sources of salt as well. One of them is water treatment plants, okay? And out in the west of the state, there's also fracking. You can go to the next one, please. Now, once it's put down, where does all that salt go? You think about what's laying out there right now on those white parking lots. As the snow starts to melt, okay, it dissolves that and it starts to run off, and the next time it rains as well. A lot of it goes directly into streams, okay, and at this time of year, after you get a major snowstorm, a few days later, you'll get a salt spike where the amount of chloride in the stream increases enormously. It also goes down storm drains, and those usually drain straight to streams. And then the rest of it essentially ends up getting washed down onto the ground. Now, chloride ions are very, very mobile. They move through the environment very easily because of the electrical charges. So they basically go straight down into the ground, and they end up down in the groundwater. And estimates are about 45% of the salt that gets put down ends up in the groundwater. You can see this picture right here showing salt just washing straight down into a storm drain there. Okay, next picture. Now, if the salt gets down into the groundwater, that's a huge problem, because around here in Pennsylvania, our streams are gaining streams. So what that means is those streams are primarily fed by groundwater. If you think about it, when it rains, the amount of water in a stream goes up, right? But a few days after the rain, it goes back down. And if it hasn't rained for a couple of weeks, most of the streams are still flowing. That's because they're being fed by the groundwater. So if there's salt washed down into the groundwater, it ends up in the streams. And that's a huge problem for all of the creatures that live in streams. Can you go to the next slide, please? This picture here shows mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies, and their Latin names are, here we go, Ephemeroptera, Plecoptera, and Trichoptera. Scientists call them the EPT organisms, and they're considered to be like the canary in the coal mine type of creature. If there's a lot of these creatures, it's a sign that the water quality is very good. If the number of these creatures is low, it's a sign that the water is impaired. Next slide, please. So this here is a graph showing the results of a study done by Stroud Water Research Center for the EPA. And what they did was they tested for these EPT creatures in the streams. If you look on the left side, can you see the numbers going up, 5, 10, 15, 20, okay? And across the bottom is the quantity of chloride, milligrams per liter. Each of those blue dots is a sample that they took. So they took a sample and they counted these organisms in the sample. And what you can see is, as the amount of chloride increases across the bottom, can you see how the number of creatures goes down enormously? And essentially, once you get over about 50, it's gone down by a whole lot, okay? So that's a number that's basically recognized these days as being the sign of long-term toxicity to EPT taxa. Can you go on to the next one, please? This chart shows chloride toxicity levels that are used. Currently, the EPA has a level of 230 milligrams a litre. That was set way back in 1988 and is based pretty much more on like what's okay for drinking and if it tastes salty. Back then, they hadn't really done this kind of research that Stroud's done more recently. If you look down below, you'll see 52 for Ohio and 50 for Maryland. And those are really more accurate in terms of what's going to compromise the stream, you know, in terms of the macroinvertebrates living in there. Currently, Pennsylvania does not have a standard. And right now, as you heard me say, we have a statewide group. That's one of our goals, is to see if we can get a standard in place here in Pennsylvania. We actually have somebody who formerly worked for the DEP who thinks that we'll be able to get a standard here in a similar way. Okay, next slide, please. Now, besides the macroinvertebrates like the mayflies, caddisflies, and stoneflies, other aquatic wildlife is also affected because salt interferes with osmotic regulation, and it also reduces the oxygen content of the water. So this impacts the zooplankton. With wood frogs, they've been found to have deformities and increased mortality in their tadpoles. With fish, like trout, it causes a reduced rates of hatching, larval development, and growth overall, bless you. In ponds and lakes, what happens with the salty water is it's more dense. So it sinks down to the bottom of the pond, and because it's lower in oxygen, it forms this oxygen deficient layer down at the bottom, which is very problematic. And finally, it affects aquatic plants, once again, because of the whole osmotic regulation going on. Next slide, please. It also has a very bad effect on soil and plantings. Road salt can actually travel 10 meters off the road edge by what's called bounce and scatter. And if there's a road with heavy traffic, it grinds the salt down into more like a powder, and there's a wind. It's been found to travel as far as 300 feet off the road surface. Now, once it gets into the soil, it washes into the soil, it reduces the permeability and fertility of the soil, and it increases the alkalinity and the density of the soil. It also causes a reduction in the activity, biomass, and community structure of soil microbes. You think about it, those old stories you hear about from Roman times when they wanted to, cause trouble for their enemies, what did they do? They went out and spread salt on the land so nothing would grow. And it's the same effect. It can be very, very expensive to replace these plantings too. Next slide, please. Another huge problem is damage to infrastructure. It's been estimated that road salt causes $5 billion of damage a year in the United States. It affects roads, breaking down surfaces of macadam and concrete roads. It affects bridges, culverts, concrete structures like parking decks, inside your garage floor. It rusts vehicles, and it also damages flooring. Next slide. Another big issue with infrastructure is corrosion to drinking water pipes. Essentially, if this happens, it can cause the leaching of toxic chemicals such as lead into drinking water. You all heard about the Flint water crisis. This is what happened there. That was from chloride in those pipes that caused the lead to leach into the pipes. So it's a big problem. Next one, please. Now, a lot of people ask about green infrastructure because one of the things that it's supposed to do is remove pollutants from water before it goes down to the groundwater. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen with road salt. Because remember, we talked about how mobile chloride is. It just moves straight through green infrastructure. So they can only really slow its infiltration. They can't prevent it from going down. So another issue is chloride can damage plantings in things like rain gardens and riparian buffers, and it can reduce the ability of microorganisms to degrade or alter other pollutants. There's been studies done about this. Like normally, these types of structures can harbor, can prevent heavy metals from passing through, but chloride prevents that from happening. And chloride also degrades soil, and it makes riparian buffers less effective in soil stabilization. Next slide, please. Another issue that's really problematic for public health is the effects on drinking water. A lot of drinking water comes from rivers and from groundwater if people have wells. Where does the drinking water come from around here? Is it City of Bethlehem water or?
A lot of us have wells.
So it's well water, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So if the groundwater's salty, like my friend's is, I have a friend that's in Schnecksville, and she lives near the turnpike. She's got very salty water in her well, okay? And the issue is water treatment does not normally remove salt. To do so requires reverse osmosis, which is very, very expensive. On the Little Lehigh in Allentown, we've actually have a graph showing that the amount of salt has doubled in the past 21 years in the stream, amount of chloride, I should say. And it's been over 50 milligrams a liter now the past 11 years. Anyway, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to hand over now to Paul, and he's going to talk a little about what he's found in his study.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I don't have any good news. I'm here to tell you what we found when we did water testing that was sponsored by the Stroud Water Research Center. We did testing in October, which was supposed to get a baseline number to see what's happening in the groundwater. And then we did testing on the 30th of January, which was supposed to be completed there were 1,400 sites sampled by Stroud. The watersheds all over the area did it, 700 people involved. Testing for chloride and then also for conductivity. But because of the weather, this second sample is delayed basically for a month. Rather than having it done by the end of January, they're hoping to have it done by the end of February. And the reason I say this, the purpose of all this is to make this information accessible to everyone. So if you were to go to the Stroud website, there is a map where all the information get put in. It will be there, and you can see exactly what the readings are. Education is foremost in Stroud's mind, and they're hoping to let everybody know what's going on. So next slide, please, Carol. Oh, I pretty much did the next slide already. Okay, the next slide. What the Saucon Creek watershed did was sample 10 sites in Hellertown, Coopersburg, Upper Saucon, and Lower Saucon townships. The numbers on the top are the numbers that were done in October. We did get 9 out of 10 of our sites done in January. So if you remember what Jennifer had to say about the 50 milligrams per liter being a number that you don't want to exceed, you won't see any numbers up there that are anywhere near close to 50. The first column, the milligrams per liter. There's even a couple numbers that are over the 1988 recommended 320 value. So the number on the top, that's what we found to be the baseline. The second number is conductivity. And I think I'm going to pretty much ignore that for the moment because I don't think our readings were correct. Conductivity is affected dramatically by temperature. And the second readings we had, obviously the water was very cold. everything I read about that said for every 1 degree of temperature change, the conductivity is supposed to go up by 2 to 3%. So I'm sure that the numbers in the second column are not correct, but that for a reference number, if you had 1,500 in microsiemens per centimeter, which is just a term for measuring conductivity, that would be a number you didn't want to exceed. I tend to think that the numbers on the top are accurate, but I think the numbers on the bottom are very low. I don't think they were temperature corrected by the machine. But anyway, every number that we took in January is higher than the number that we took in October, and the numbers in October were pretty bad to begin with. So it looks to me like the salt is going somewhere, and it's going into the groundwater and into the streams.
You have to measure at exactly the same spot
Exactly.
both times?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then like, you know, like Lower Saucon Sportsman Association or Shimersville Road, is there like is there areas there where, you know, especially Ringhofer Road has that steep slope?
Yeah.
Does that make a difference?
It probably, we took it right by the Sportsman's Club, so it is downhill a lot.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So we took it right there. But those numbers weren't too bad, as I remember. Yeah, they weren't the worst for sure. The worst number was right on 378, which was just north of the Copperhead Grill. And that makes sense because that's where most of the traffic and the pollution is going to be. But it will be interesting when all the numbers get in from all the 1,400 places, 1,400 locations that you'll see on the map. But I think you'll have to wait till the end of February to get that because it's not easy to get these readings at the moment.
Why do you think Silver Creek went from 80 to 180? I mean, yeah, 180. That's a big increase. Is there something in that area that would have? Silver Creek.
Behind the pool.
Oh, that might have had a lot to do with flow. There just wasn't much flow there.
Oh, when you
And yeah, I think the flow affected that more than anything else. But I thank Jennifer for doing her project because I think it's all something that we need to be aware of anyway. And what she's going to come back and tell you how you can reduce salt usage and save money at the same time. So, yes?
Do you include the brine they put on the roads as part of your chloride?
Yes. The brine is about 1/3 chloride and 2/3 water.
So that's included in the tonnage?
Yes. Yep.
And so if it has the gravel particle that the township puts down, has that also got brine in it?
It can be wetted. Sometimes the particles are wetted with brine. I don't know if they do that. I don't know what locations do that and what locations don't.
I know Lower Saucon does do that. I just don't know if it's brine.
They put down anti-skid, is it, or they put down like,
It's like gravel.
yeah. My township uses that too.
Do they normally brine it? Do they brine it beforehand, or is it just?
I know, one of the guys I know, I think they just put that down. Then they have to come around and sweep it up later.
They do.
They put it down last year because they ran out of salt.
Yeah.
They were looking for alternatives.
And I think it's a good alternative. I just didn't know if it added to the chloride, sodium
I
chloride.
don't think that does significantly, not that I've heard anyway.
Okay.
One thing I would add to about this study that Paul's group did is that this was all done when the creeks were at base flow.
Well,
what that means.
First.
The top chart was.
Okay, the top chart was done when the creeks are at base flow. What that means is that you basically, did you look at the stream monitors, or did you just do it visually?
No, just visually.
Visually. So what you do is you wait until it, you know, when it rains, you have to wait several days, like maybe 3 or 4 days afterwards, and go and look at your creeks and make sure that they're way back down at what's called base flow. And at that time, That's when they're being fed by the groundwater. So if you're seeing these high numbers there, that means that that's in the groundwater. If you went down and tested the groundwater, it would be very similar to those numbers. Okay? So,
That's a very good point. When Stroud put out the instructions for how they wanted to do this, they wanted the original October readings taken when there hadn't been any rain for at least a week. So all of the readings that were taken in October were base flow readings.
yeah. We can go to the next one. And here's a map too. Paul, you want to talk about the map?
Well, those are the maps. Those are the readings which we put in there, and they just reflect the numbers. This is from the Stroud interactive map. Obviously, there's no greens up there. For there to be greens up there, it would have to be below 50, and we didn't find a reading 50 anywhere. The red are the higher numbers, and the worst numbers, and the yellow are the a little less than worse numbers.
What's the 4 one? Go back. The one that's actually in the township that's red, where's that?
Sorry, the question?
4, SCWA 4, the red one that's in the township. Go back to the table.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the table?
Yeah.
Which one's that?
It's four is 4 from the top. So 1, 2, 3. So that's the Two Manila Park. That's the one right in Hellertown.
So the numbers aren't red. If you go back.
Yeah, that's a higher one though.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, these are the actual numbers. The picture is from the Stroud
Yes, from
map.
the Stroud
So
I was just trying to, which location that
Yeah,
represents.
do the numbers on the Stroud map correspond to the order that they are on this form though?
yeah, the column that's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 through 10 from the top.
Okay.
Do they do, these were all like little creeks and streams, do they do the big rivers as well, like the Lehigh or the Delaware, to see how bad they're getting from
Yeah.
all the stuff that gets into, from all these bad little streams?
There are some numbers on, I'm trying to think which one. I think we have numbers on the Lehigh and the Delaware. Yeah, there are numbers for those streams, but they didn't do it as part of the study. This study was essentially more smaller creeks and streams around the state, because that's like where the watershed associations are. Okay.
When it eventually gets finished, the numbers are going to be mostly from southeast Pennsylvania, but a little bit, they'll have some from Delaware, New Jersey, and Maryland in there as well. So that, because Stroud's down near Philadelphia, so they have that area.
Oh, it's in Helltown, right next, excuse me, right next to, Habitat. Neighbors used to
Yeah.
tucked in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that these numbers, if you look at the map, I could bring you the map up in a minute if you want to see the map, but if you look on the map, these are some of, these spots here are actually some of the higher ones. Like, for example, now this is from January, but we did our study in October in the Little Lehigh. Our numbers were not as high as these. We were not getting consistently. I mean, about half were over 50, but a bit more than half, but we weren't seeing a whole ton of numbers this high, even going into Allentown. So it's interesting that this area is as high as it is. I don't know what the difference is. Yeah.
The whole salt level has to do with urbanization, and the highest numbers in the state are down near Philadelphia, and if you get back to the rural numbers, then they get less and less. But
The borough has that right next to Grist Mill, right? They have that storage
Yes.
Yes.
parking area. Do they have salt in that shed there?
At the grist mill, there is a salt
Behind,
storage.
behind the
Behind,
grist mill.
there is a salt storage bin in there.
Yeah, and then that's right next to where the
Creek is.
Habitat place is.
Yes.
That used to be neighbors.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
That's a distance, but.
there is some distance, yeah.
There's a little difference because it's
Yeah,
a tiny
but-
little park.
It's like a football field.
But once again, you know, that was a high percentage was your salt pile. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's gonna leach into.
I'm wondering,
Leach into the
yeah.
ground.
Maybe at least a little bit, but you took samples in Coopersburg on this as well.
Yeah. I didn't, where is the salt storage in Hellertown?
Where the grist mill is?
Yeah,
It's right behind it.
On the east, to the east of grist mill. They're right behind the JCL Automotive. In there is a
okay.
Public Works building where they have the vehicles. The plows, I think, stay there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Yep, thanks.
Now, is that salt piles covered with
I'm
a
not sure.
structure or tarps?
I think there's a building there.
It's a building, but it's open in the front,
Yeah.
so there's nothing to prevent leakage.
It's like a large garage.
It's a large garage, yeah, and I think they store their plows, I think they set them there.
Yeah.
But the
So
vehicles
you're
are
gonna have a
maybe in
lot
that-
of excess spills in a place like that where you're loading the plows and so forth and
yeah.
storing it. So it's not all gonna be contained.
And it's flowing north, right, at that point?
Yes, it flows north, yeah.
I got the map on here, but we can't show it up on screen.
Because otherwise you got the giant parking lot.
All right, never mind.
That would be immediately upstream of that.
Upstream, yeah.
Sorry about that, now I screwed you up. No, I got it. You good? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you want to look at it on the laptop later, you can see the whole map. Okay.
I don't know if I want to look at it.
It's depressing, it really is. I mean, this is like a big new thing. We've only known about this, how many years? 3 years ago. It came on our radar. I went to 2 conferences and people were talking about it, but a lot of people just have no idea about this. All right, Carol, if you could please go on to the next one. So what I'm going to talk about next is what can be done about it. And so best management practices. And the benefits of implementing these practices is, first of all, to maintain safe streets. We don't want to compromise safety, and it's not necessary to compromise safety. But we also, excuse me, can reduce the impacts to the water supply, infrastructure, and the environment, while saving money on materials, labor, and fuel, and giving an improved level of service. So it's kind of a win-win thing if you switch over to this. Can you move to the next one, please? So the first thing is calibrating salt spreaders. What we found out is that many townships basically don't do this. And where PennDOT, you can see at the bottom, it says they recommend 100 to 300 pounds per lane mile. Actually, that should be 200. I'm looking at that. It doesn't look quite right to me. 200 to 300 pounds of salt per lane mile. We've heard of townships putting down a ton. And a lane mile is just one lane of road on one side for 1 mile. So if you have 1 mile of road, you actually have 2 lane miles. So there are townships putting down 2 tons of salt per mile, okay? This is a picture there of township employees doing calibration. It should be performed annually, at least, and any time that a salt spreader is serviced. And each truck should also be calibrated for each type of material that will be used. The goal of calibration is to know how much material is put down for every setting on the truck that's used. Your next slide, please. Now, Hamilton Township in New Jersey, during the 2004 to 2005 winter, they calibrated all their equipment twice. And that year was actually a bad winter, and they had more snow events and 6 inches more of snow, but they used $160,000 worth less of salt. So this can make an enormous difference, and this is a very, very low cost BMP to do. It's just a little bit of employees' time, some training, And that's all it takes, and you can make an enormous difference right there. Next slide, please. The next one is accurate weather forecasting. There are now weather forecasting services that do weather forecasting down to the zip code. And townships are using these. They increase their ability to predict what's coming and to respond to the weather conditions as they're changing. And that way you can make best use of your resources. You know exactly when and where to de-ice and plow. Instead of just sending everybody out every time you think there's going to be a storm. We've all seen all that salt go down, right? And then nothing happens. Much less likely to happen with this. And the other thing too is sometimes they go out and put a lot of salt down, and then, yeah, it's cold and snowy for a little while, but then the sun comes out and melts everything. If you have a good forecast, you know when that's going to happen, and you can just let the sun do the work. So it makes everything much more efficient, makes things safer, because you know exactly, what to anticipate, results in big cost savings. You're not using as much materials, labor, fuel. And another thing is, some of these hyper-local services actually can provide extra information. They tell you if it's necessary to go out and do de-icing. If the municipality is using brine, there are different additives that can be put in according to the temperature of the road surfaces. These forecasts can actually give information about which additives to use and when to do de-icing as well. Next slide, please. Another best management practice is road condition information systems. And we've got some pictures here. The one at the top is an in-road sensor, and that can actually detect the temperature of the road surface. And then the one below are remote sensors that stand off to the side of the road and look at it, and they can tell what's going on with the road surface. There are also truck-mounted sensors that give truck drivers information about exactly what's going on with the temperature of the road, etc., as they're driving the truck. So these can basically give truck drivers and township, the maintenance managers, detailed real-time data on the road conditions. And that allows them to make much better informed decisions about whether to go out there with the plows or whatever, when to go out there, and basically take care of the places that need it and not worry about the places that don't, instead of just having a whole blanket approach to all of the roads. These can result in significant cost savings. Next slide, please. An example of that is Cranberry Township out in Butler County in the west of the state. Cranberry Township has 140 miles of road, and in the winter of 2022 to 2023, that year, they installed 7 road sensors. These units were used to monitor air, pavement temperature, road grip, and the amount of precipitation. During that winter, they prevented 10 to 16 call-outs, and they estimated it saved the township about $300,000 in labor and equipment. And basically, the sensors allowed the township to know precisely when salt applications were needed and when the pavement and sun would do the work. And they basically found these things paid themselves off. I think they said in the first season that they had them. Next slide, please. The next one is brining. Does Lower Saucon Township do brining? Do you know?
Yes,
Yes?
We don't have the brining trucks like Bethlehem.
no.
I don't think we
So-
do.
You sorry, you do or you don't?
We do not
You
have
don't?
those that
Okay.
just spray down with brine.
Brining is really an
That's like the liquid.
Oh, it's the
excellent.
county road, that's why.
Brining is excellent for a lot of reasons. So brine uses a 23.3% solution of salt and water. And what they do is they pre-treat the roads. This is a picture of brine stripes in Allentown. The township can mix brine on site. They could purchase it too, but it's not that hard to mix up. And the equipment is not super expensive to do so. And the great thing with brine is when you go and you spray it on the roads, it stays right there where it's put. It doesn't bounce and scatter off the roads. And it stays there for a long time. Once it's down, and if it snows, brine prevents the snow from bonding to the road. And what that means is that when you do come back and plow later, the snow basically plows up more easily. So it means you don't have to plow as much. Brine has been shown to cause a 75% reduction in salt use. And it also reduces not just the amount of salt, the materials, but it's also can result in labor savings because you're not out plowing as often. You're not necessarily paying for overtime. Another great thing is you can put it down well ahead of a storm. In Allentown, I used to drive to work in the morning, and they'd have that brine down the road at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the snow wouldn't come till late at night, but it just stays there. So what it means is that the township employees can go out during their regular shifts, get it put down. They don't have to be going out, doing overtime and going out at night time, etc., because it just stays there. It also kind of builds up through the winter season. It gets into the cracks in the road. And so each successive storm, it reactivates better. Next slide. North Fayette Township in Allegheny County started brining in 2013. That township has 100 lane miles of road, and they normally have 30 snowfall events a year. Before they started brining, they were using 90 tons per event. Now take a look a minute, how many lane miles of road? After brining, that went down to 5 to 10 tons per event. So I don't even know, what is that, 80% reduction? What's 10, anyway. Estimated savings of $141,000 a year in that township. I'm going to tell you that I've been at events with private contractors who use brining, and they were raving about it because they said that it basically works so much better at melting ice and snow. They were talking about parking lots, and they said their parking lot would all be black, and the parking lot next door with rock salt would be sitting there with all the snow and ice. They really love it. And another great thing is it doesn't kill landscaping. They said even if you spray it on the grass doesn't get killed by it. So that's kind of a nice benefit as well. Next slide, please. Another one is pre-wetting salt. If you do use rock salt, it's better to pre-wet it by spraying it with brine, because what that does is it makes it stick to the road so you don't get the bounce and scatter. Also, if it's wetted, it activates faster once the snow does fall. Pre-wetting salt can actually result in a 30% reduction in materials. In Michigan, they started doing it, and they found that 78% of the salt stayed in the center of the roadway instead of ending up off on the sides like you often see. And I'm just looking, this is a new slide. What did I write here? In Michigan, they reuse their truck wash water to pre-wet their salt or make brine. Okay, next slide, please. You're getting the more detailed BMP slides tonight, so please forgive me. This is the first time I've done some of these. Okay, next we have, this is an anti-icing decision tree put out by PennDOT. This is a basically free of charge BMP that township employees can use to guide their decisions on when to go out and do the anti-icing. Very, very simple thing to use. Next slide, please. And this is an application rate chart. This is a PennDOT one. This is also something that is free of charge. It basically gives very detailed information on what types of materials to use at different road temperatures and different conditions. And that's definitely something that should be used. Okay, next slide, please. Next one is automated spreader controls. And these are a unit that goes inside the salt truck or the brine truck, preferably the brine truck, to program the salt application. And what they do is they have variable application rates. Instead of the driver just sort of deciding to put it down, this figures it out for them automatically. They adjust for speed. If there's curves in the road, they alter the amount of salt going down, or if there's a hill. These units also can have vehicle location sensors, and those can be used to target precise locations around the township. And all of this data basically allows much more informed decisions by management. Next slide, please. Now this here is a segmented or live edge snowplow. If you look at it, do you notice that the edge has those sections? They're about 1.5 feet across and they are separated, each one. Those are actually spring loaded. What that means is that each section of the plow blade can move up and down independently. So that if the plow goes over a road and there's a bump or something, that section will go up. It also means that the plow basically hugs the curvature of the road. Now, if you run a straight plow, you think about it and you've got a curved road, that plow is going to miss part of the road surface. But this one, because it conforms to the whole road surface, you can actually run a wider plow. These plows get a much cleaner scrape. Because they're wider, it means you can do things faster. You only need one pass of a plow like this instead of having to go back a couple of times with a straight plow. So these are a little bit expensive in upfront costs, but in the long run, they save a lot of money on labor and fuel with the cleaner scrape, etc. Next slide.
You retrofit?
Well, it's just a plow blade, so you just change, you can...
No, but you have to buy the whole unit?
Yeah, you have to buy the whole unit, yeah. Next, we got salt storage. So salt storage is very important. Should be kept under cover on a level site, on an impervious surface and outside a 100-year floodplain. Any areas of localized flooding or any kept away from stormwater facilities. There should be drainage controls to prevent runoff. Anytime there's any spills, employees should clean them up immediately. And all salt storage should be inspected and maintained regularly. Next slide, please. Next, we've got washing the trucks. Salt trucks need to get washed, otherwise they're gonna start corroding. But if you have truck wash water, it can have very high levels of sodium, chloride, and other pollutants that are picked up. So truck wash water should really be captured, treated, and recycled. Basically, what you can do, I've heard it can be used to make brine in the future. That's one of the uses for it. We did hear of a township that was washing their trucks, and guess where all the wash water was going? Right into the creek, right next. And yeah, and then they said, "Oh, right, we'll stop doing that. We'll capture it." And you know what they did with it? They sent it to the wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plants do not take out salt, so it's just going into the stream where the wastewater treatment plant was. So it's another thing to consider. Okay, next slide. Next is training of staff. This is actually free. PennDOT has something called the Local Technical Assistance, or LTAP program, which they offer to all townships around the state. And they have two different classes that they offer. The first one is for the public works employees, and they train them in how to pre-wet, pre-wetting, anti-icing practices, how to calibrate spreaders. They teach them about material application rates, plowing techniques, and environmental awareness. Next slide. And then there's another class for management. In that they learn about planning and preparing a year-round comprehensive maintenance operation, budgeting, workforce training, equipment preparation, material procurement strategies, and also public relations for winter operations. So those are offered, as I say, free of charge, and essentially all staff should be taking those every year, or whenever somebody needs some retraining, they should take it again. Next slide. Another great thing is to have a municipal salt management plan. This is a commitment to implementing best management practices while providing safe, efficient, and cost-effective winter maintenance of the roads. And here's a list of things it should include. There should be a salt management policy and objectives. There should be a review of current practices, documentation of policies, procedures, and guidelines, a list of the BMPs and their assigned responsibilities, training, and then there should be a constant process of monitoring, reporting, and analysis, and management review. Okay, and townships that have done this type of thing, we know have managed to significantly reduce the amount of road salt they use. 50% is low-hanging fruit. It's possible in some cases to reduce by as much as 70% by having this type of thing in place. But it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that can take some time to implement, okay? So here we got some suggestions on kind of where to get started with this, because it's a lot. Up at the top, there's a little group of BMPs. We've got training employees, calibrating equipment, using the application rate charts, and evaluating performance. Those are all essentially no cost. Okay, so they're a great place to start, maybe as a kind of a pilot program or something. The bottom list are technology improvements that do involve some expense. But as I said before, we have evidence that these will pay themselves back. Localized weather forecasts, road temperature sensors, brine making equipment, and training. And you know, I've got that there, but there should also be brine spreading equipment. I'll have to add that to that list. And the segmented snow plows. So those are ones to kind of aspire to in the future. I put this up here. This is a quick resource guide for winter maintenance BMPs. And if you'd like to read more about this, this has got some really nice kind of in-depth information on this topic, okay? And if anybody has any questions.
Can you go back to that last slide,
Yeah,
please,
can you go
for a
back,
moment?
Carol?
That was excellent, thank
That was
you.
excellent.
Are we gonna get a copy of the slides?
What, do you want to use them for something? Or you want to just read it through?
That I couldn't get in my notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carol, you've got it. Do you want to just forward it to everybody? All right. Yeah. By the way, if anybody, so you remember I told you that we've started this statewide organization, and one of the goals that we have is to support anybody around the state that wants to talk about this. So if any of you want to use these slides to go and give a talk, they actually have notes that you can read and give a very nice presentation, okay?
That's excellent.
And you're very welcome to use them. I don't mind. You can, you know, change them or whatever. But it occurred to us that a lot of people would like to be talking about this, but they don't necessarily have the resources to put a slide deck like that together. So it's one of our goals is to give all the materials to people that want to advocate about this, okay? So you're welcome to use them. Thank you. And you can see they even have references at the end as well, if people, and the notes have references if you get asked questions as well. So it's all in the slide deck. Yeah, Carol, you're welcome to share that. Okay, yeah.
That's great.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
Very informative.
Very good.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
You're welcome. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, I had a question, maybe it's more of a statement or an observation. I noticed 50% of the additional road salt comes from parking lots. And I forget where I learned or saw this, but there's something about, there are regulations for parking lots being a certain size based on the number of people that visit the store. So it seems like parking lots are too big to start with.
Yeah.
And then this over litigation of people suing for slip and falls cause store owners to oversalt, and then they hire subcontractors who also oversalt. So how do you start to figure that out?
Yeah, that whole parking lot thing's interesting, those regulations that if you have this size building, you have to have, that's a sort of municipal thing. In terms of the private contractors, that's something that our group's working on. It's one of our goals. So let me explain a little bit more about Pennsylvania Road Salt Action. So I'm from Little Lehigh Watershed Stewards. We did 2 salt snap, no, actually this last year was the 3rd. We've been doing salt snapshots in our watershed for 3 years now. And we found elevated chlorides and we wanted to take action. And what we found out was that there was nothing very cohesive in Pennsylvania. So Mary Rooney, who's the president of our group, and we decided to start this statewide group. And it has 2 parts to it. It has a working group that is working like with issues with like Harrisburg, with like getting the standard for the long-term toxicity, trying to work with LTAP, PennDOT to see if we can get them to promote that program more. And another one of our goals is to have a program like they have in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is kind of ahead of Pennsylvania on this. And they, 10 years ago, introduced a program in their state called Green Snow Pro. And what that is they recognized that the private contractors and the people that hired them were all very, very concerned about being sued for slips and falls, for liability. And that was a big reason why their contractors were putting so much salt down. So what they did was they started a statewide training program for private contractors. And if those private contractors take that training program and then they do a certain amount of record keeping about where they put the salt down, how much, the weather conditions, etc. If they fulfilled that and all of their employees took the training every year, they would be called a Green Snow Pro. And they would be able to advertise themselves as that. And the state gave them limited liability in the case of slips and falls. That was 10 years ago, and they have now got to the point where it was tested by being, there was a lawsuit that went through, at least one, there might have been 2, but at least one, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court in New Hampshire, and it did not succeed. So there is a whole bunch of states around, New York, Maryland, New Jersey, Minnesota. Everybody's looking at this to see how it goes in New Hampshire. And I think that there's going to be others now starting to do it. It's one of our goals for Pennsylvania. It's almost an impossible dream. But we have to have it as a goal and hope that maybe at some point in the future people will, we will be able to do it. So it is something we're looking at. We're working with an organization called SIMA, which is the Snow and Ice Management Association, the private contractors. They want it. The professional contractors, the guys with the bigger companies who consider themselves to be the professionals, they really want this. So they see that these other guys are not doing a lot of good for their reputations. So yeah, that's what we're working on right now. And one of our goals too is to see if we can get, in the meantime, training around the state for the private contractors. At the very least, they can say, I've taken this green professional training, and hopefully when people give out contracts, they'll take that into account.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, very good.
Any other questions? Okay, yeah.
Have you ever done surveys afterwards to see if the drivers are happy with the results from the reduced salt?
If the drivers are, well, yeah, I'm just trying to think in terms of, I don't know about any surveys, but we've got evidence from other places, like, for example, Lake George in New York switched over to these kind of practices. And they apparently at first, their staff members, they had some people like, oh, this is the way we've always done things, you know, those people. There's actually a video, and it's really great, of this guy going, yeah, when they first came and said this to me, I was like, nah, that's not gonna work. And well, we did, and then he starts raving about brining. It's really funny to watch. And I told you that event, I went to an event last year in Scranton, private contractors, but they were like, I couldn't believe it, how people couldn't say enough good things about brining. They really like it. It does a really good job, makes their lives a lot easier. So only anecdotally, I'm afraid. There aren't a lot of like studies of these types of things. But yeah, and the managers love it because it's saving a lot of money, you know, so it's all good, yeah.
So I've read a number of times over the years about alternative such as red beet, something or another for de-icing. Do you have any thoughts on that or knowledge?
So what I've heard about, and it's beet juice, I don't know if it's red beet, it's beets. It might be some other kind of beet that's used in, do you know what I mean? There's like sugar, there's different types of beet. It's beet juice. So what I've heard about it is it makes things very sticky. And if it does get washed into the creeks, it's not that great because it is kind of sugary and it's organic. And I think it can cause like bacterial overgrowth and things like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily so great for the creeks. I did hear there's a township somewhere out west of here, and I have to investigate, you know, how that's going. Somebody told me there is one township using it. And right now, from what we found out, there's not really a lot of great alternatives to using salt. The main thing is to just use less of it. That's the whole thing. We don't think at the moment we can get away from it. But if everybody was just more careful with this, we could use a whole lot less. And that's the point right now. And stop this upward curve, at least get it kind of going in a straight direction. Yeah.
This was a topic at the PSATS boot camp about using brining, and I remember that they were saying that if you don't have the facilities to create this, that you might be able to procure the brine from the county. So there are ways to share resources between municipalities for this to reduce your upfront costs. The second part of what I wanted to say was, we talked about parking lots as a private issue. What about the residents? What about educating the residents on what they do for their driveways, for their sidewalks, and I know that there's, I don't know if did you ever publish it? But I saw an infographic at one point, I think, where, and I'm not sure where, maybe it was from the Watershed Steward Program, but it's like that you only need a grain of salt every 2 or 3 inches or so.
Yeah, where was that in my presentation? We must have.
I posted it on my Facebook.
Yeah, I saw it too.
So I've seen an infographic.
Yeah, we have one. And if you want it for the township, it comes from Salt Watch, from Isaac Walton's Salt Watch. Each grain of salt should be 3 inches apart.
Okay.
All right.
That's
Yeah.
a long time to put that.
Anybody watching at home?
And we did it. We did it.
10 pieces of
When you
salt.
can't go to the store and find any salt, you only need 1 grain every 3 inches.
Spent hours putting it down.
One 12-ounce coffee mug is enough for a 20-foot driveway.
Say that again?
One 12-ounce coffee mug of salt is sufficient for a 20-foot driveway or 20 pavement squares.
Okay.
3 inches apart. And my husband did it on our driveway. It worked just fine. I mean, I went out and I was like, I think you went a little bit over, but he got it pretty well. Yeah.
Can you send that either to me or Carol or and then we can maybe
send out to the public.
Yes.
Public, yeah.
I
Next time we
can,
have a assault
so
or a
there's some
storm event.
other materials that other organizations have made of, like, there's one that says shovel more, salt less. There's some like posters and things. This is a really important point, actually, is public education. First of all, on what people can do at home, but as well on public expectations of what they think is the right thing and the right amount of plowing. Because when we've talked to municipal employees, that's one of the biggest things that people have told us. They get complaints. And because people are just unreasonable about, they just want it all to blacktop the next day. So there needs to be like public education of like, no, this is not really the way things should be, you know.
But the benefit of brining then is that it doesn't freeze into ice and it keeps it a slush layer, so you can still drive through that relatively safely. It's a little bit of a different, expectation then. It doesn't have to be clear to be safe and traversable.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know about a slush layer. I don't know if you get a slush layer with brine. I mean, it prevents the snow from sticking. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sorry, I can't answer what happens when a lot of snow falls on brine. Like if you get a layer of slush, I'll have to find that one out. I don't know how that works.
Well, I definitely would love some resources for the residents.
Yeah.
Maybe if we can educate the community in that way.
Okay, yeah, I'll see what I can get for you. I mean, this is one of our goals of our project. There's all these materials out there, but no one knows where to find them. So right now we're working on putting together our website, and there will be links to all these things that you can print up and use, for such things.
You wouldn't happen to know what the present market cost for a brine application truck would be, would you?
No, not off the top of my head.
Is it the whole truck, or is it
Well, that's
just
my question. Is it something that our
assembly?
existing trucks can be retrofitted, or is it
Yeah.
what is current equipment sunsetting at, and what's the cost to replace with a brine truck as opposed to replace with a salt
I
truck?
think that book, I think it's in that booklet I shared with you. It talks about retrofitting. So yeah, it's not, so you can just put the unit on the back of the truck.
You just need to move it
So
But
it
I
doesn't necessarily need to be a purpose-built
No,
truck. It
no,
can
I
be,
don't.
It can be retrofitted.
No, I think you can retrofit the truck. But if you want, I'll see if I can, do you want me to try and find that out for you?
Just curious, I mean, when we're looking at, cost-saving measures, and then just need to be realistic, what's the infrastructure cost to make that kind of change?
Yeah, no one's asked me that before, and I'd be happy to. So this is all good. No, the reason this is good is because I can share this information with everybody else, because that's what we're trying to do. And I'll see if I can find out too, like what brine making equipment costs.
Tremendously helpful.
I mean, just to give like a,
county road.
I saw a presentation online from Mayo Clinic, and they've got a really big campus, and they decided to brine, and their guys in their maintenance department built their own brine making equipment for $600 with stuff they had lying around. So, I mean, that's not as much as you'd need in a township, but I don't think it's going to cost an arm and a leg for the brine making equipment. Yeah.
It's just a matter of the spreading equipment.
The spreading equipment, yeah. I'll see what I can find out for you. I know the right people to ask, okay? We'll find out what, how many, do you know how many miles of road you have in the township?
800 something? I don't know. What is
Like
that?
121.
Oh, 100.
Our township's it's like a horseshoe shape,
Yeah, but a lot of those are also
That's what I
federal
said,
roads.
100.
So it's 120 miles of what the township's responsible for. So actually, some of those examples are
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, yeah, I'll
How many
see what I
tons of
can
salt do
find
we
out.
use?
What was your name?
Kurt.
Kurt. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah,
This has been very, very helpful, thank you.
oh, you're welcome. And if you,
An infographic.
if you,
You posted like the number of miles that we had?
It's on our, I'm gonna try to look it up right now, it's on our website.
Yeah, you just published that right before the event.
if you have any more questions, or if you decide to do anything and you need any help, I know a lot of people now I don't know all this, but I know the people to ask to get the information for you, to help you with that. You know, do you know what I'm saying in terms of, like, I can put you in touch with other townships that have done this type of thing. So you could even talk to people who've done it before and that type of thing. We got a really good relationship with Lake George in New York, and they're like the poster child for doing this. So that, you know, yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
No? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hannah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you, both of you, for coming.
You know, the one thing, thinking to something we could do, obviously we think, you know, determine how many miles of township roadway there is, and we have the opportunity to make suggestions about that, but we should probably also ask the zoning officer he could do this in no time, I'm sure, on the GIS, and just calculate, sum up the square footage or square miles of parking lots we have. Given that that's a big source, and then we sort of can see a ratio of, you know, where production is, and then also where parking lots are relative to the drainage ways, you know, because then you're gonna have outflows more directly from them into the stream system. Most storm water runoff is right into the streams.
Yeah.
So that can give us some ideas to assess.
Our public works,
And target.
they maintain, they plow and maintain approximately 86.94 miles of township roads.
8, there was the 8, not 800, but 8. I was right with the,
And is there anything in there, I guess it probably isn't, but how many Lower Saucon Township roads are PennDOT?
Yes, I did post something like that on our Facebook
Like
site.
Easton Road, Lower Saucon Road, probably 412.
Surprisingly, Reddington Road is PennDOT.
Really?
It is.
Riverside Drive.
yeah, and the question is, how many tons of salt do we use?
Yeah.
And what are the costs for the equipment upgrades? And then the savings, if we can cut down 50 or 75% of that.
Well, it's homework for us.
So what was I was getting for you? Wait a minute. So first of all, you said 86 miles of township.
86.9.
7.
No?
No.
Everybody's wrong tonight.
And you wanted an estimate of how much to retrofit.
Truck.
I mean, I think the question's gonna be like, what's the capacity of the truck? That's the only thing that we want to know. And how many trucks do you have?
Yeah,
Well, I would say just in general, since you're gonna be getting this question from other townships, just that the range for retrofitting would probably useful depending upon truck capacity.
and the other thing is you don't have to retrofit every vehicle or
No.
changeover.
Exactly.
And you don't have to brine every road either. It can be select roadways that you do this on.
Yeah. And Rome wasn't built in a day. You can start out with one thing and
One truck at a
gradually
time.
work your way up. And then also how much for the brining mixer?
The big thing is we know all equipment has an expected life cycle, so it's not even a matter of
And you want the
Trying to tag it in.
retiring,
Yeah,
anything before it needs to be, but.
salt,
20 feet.
and you want other public education materials.
yeah,
I think that's everything.
resident education.
Okay.
And one thing that, you know, Winfield brought that point up about 50% being parking lots, and I thought, that's a harder nut to crack because that's a whole range of people and so on. But one thing that struck me the other day, I noticed they were brining in anticipation of snow that wasn't very significant, but it was in the middle of the afternoon, it was way before the event was expected. But the fact that you can do it and it sticks and stays, not having to brine at midnight would be quite appealing to a lot of truck drivers, both municipal, but also people that are doing this as private source for parking lots and so forth. You know?
Developments with all their parking.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a compelling argument for people who are in that business.
Yeah, they were all saying it just made their lives so much easier.
Yeah.
The only issue for private contractors is sometimes that they've got jobs all over the place, is transporting the brine to where they need it. That was the one downside for them. But with a township, you have it
Yeah.
centrally. And if you had a neighboring township that wanted to get into it, you might be able to do like a brine making collective. You also, one thing I've heard of is selling the brine to private contractors. You make it and you sell your brine, so that's another thing, or sell it to neighboring township if you've got the equipment. So
That's a good idea.
a lot of things you can do with that.
There are 14 roads that are PennDOT maintained, and that is the 30.23 miles for PennDOT roadways.
Say that one more time, Carol, please.
PennDOT has 14 roads in the township, and it's 30.23 miles.
Thank you.
So you know what's gonna happen now? You're all gonna have salt awareness when you drive around.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we still have quite a full agenda, so we move forward. The next item on the agenda. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the proposed ordinance for the new data center ordinance proposal that we first received as a link and also have, a web link, and we have in our packet. So I open the floor for people that have thoughts, concerns. I guess in many respects, the idea here is to suggest perhaps ways of improving this ordinance, because I think it is probably wise for the township to have an ordinance to address these sorts of issues, one way or the other.
But I think it would help for everyone to know that this is just the first read. It went up to council to be sent out to,
Lehigh Valley Planning Commission.
yes, thank you, Lehigh Planning Commission. So I know some people may have misunderstood that this was going in rapidly. It's not. It's just in the first read. It's being evaluated. So for us to be able to talk through it is a good thing.
Where did this come from? Like, where did this,
The solicitor did it,
Gazouzian?
and there's a lot of like templates out there these days, so I would assume
And
you
it's to-
probably started with one of those.
and it's to protect, Lower Saucon Township, to protect, the residents if something like
Right,
this
it's
is.
so that it's addressed, because if you don't have it specifically called out in your ordinance, where, how? If you don't have it specifically spelled out in your zoning, where something like this could go, a developer could come in and say, hey, I'm putting one, in the
And
middle
then-
of your cornfield.
And I did go back and listen last night to the meeting where this came up, and Palmer Township is fighting because they did not have ordinance describing, where a data center could go, what needed to be documented as regulations to meet certain requirements, and they're now in a big lawsuit. So without that, anywhere in Lower Saucon could have a data warehouse or come in, so.
It's to protect us.
Well, it's so that we can make our specifications of what guidelines they would need to meet and where they could go.
And then my last question is, this of course is very comprehensive, but this whole idea came, like, it's best management practice, is that what it is, from where the solicitor got this information from? It's a template almost?
No, I think Jay and Steve have been working on it.
Yeah, there's lots of
And-
places that are scrambling very quickly to put ordinances in, so we got a lot of examples of ones that have been going in and
Yeah.
or are in. So,
I think a lot of these paragraphs came from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission work.
yeah, that's what I said, a lot of it I think is, a lot of people have
Right.
similar things.
And, the ordinance basically says, where even a warehouse can go in, and I apologize, I don't know the different zoning,
Light industrial.
light
This is for
industrial,
light
thank you.
manufacturing
And then
only.
it says light manufacturing. There's two different
Correct.
spots, but yes.
So it helps define that.
So as it
10
is,
acre
as it is right
minimum.
now, this is over off of Apple Butter by the landfill, across from that power plant,
Right.
and also on Easton Road.
Right.
What about?
That sliver
what about
that- What?
What are you referring to?
The LM where this
Oh,
can
where
go
the,
is
light
Apple Butter
manufacturing,
and
yeah.
Easton Road where this would
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah.
Until
It's
the
really-
Easton Road LM gets modified to an LM alternate, which would restrict certain uses within that space as well.
How about the 412 as it goes down to Springtown? Is any of that,
That's
light
not LM.
manufacturing?
No,
Not LM.
no.
They rezoned Easton Road a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I know, but it takes a lot of land and flat land to build big data centers.
10
Well,
acres.
We don't
they,
have much
they
flat
have
land.
little ones though. They have all different sizes. We
Huge amount of
just
energy.
Yeah.
actually went to a presentation at LVPC like 2 weeks ago, and they have all kinds of sizes, so
Well, little ones
you
are
know.
less trouble.
less trouble, but you still wanna control where it
They're gonna
goes.
go.
Because
Well,
they still have
all right,
the
that's
same
true. They do
issues,
have
just
little
on
ones.
smaller
And I
scale.
think that, we have we don't have much flat land. No. So if we get anything, it's gonna be small, unless there's some big
You
flat
never
land
know.
along 412. I don't know.
The problem
but
with
it's not-
Apple Butter
can't be
Easton
around.
Road is in between is the city of Bethel. So there,
Well, the
If
one
it's
thing
gonna
with
go
this-
in, that's where I'd want it.
it's always
Right, but
biggest
if you
issues
have
with
the
this-
code, you're better protected
correct.
to
Yeah.
address any of the issues. And Chad, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The things I like about this is especially from an environmental perspective, where it talks about native species,
I saw
you know,
that.
having to have a vegetation buffer around. I know that there was some feedback from residents at the council meeting that they didn't like that it was 100 feet from a residential area. I don't know how that fits on that map over there, how many residential structures or plots sit up against that LM to even have that be a consideration. Because really, the biggest factors with this is noise. You know, I think, maybe you can say, Laura, to what that extent that is. I've never been around one of these. How much noise does it make? I know they have restrictions on it from certain hours, but what is it?
Yeah, well, and there's a
Fans?
decibel
Fans for,
limit
fans
as
for
well.
cooling of the facility, like air conditioning
Noise
units?
limit.
You know,
Right.
because these are giant
Across
supercomputers,
the
right, that are
street on
inside. They have to
Easton
keep
Road.
it a,
Yeah, huge
They're
amount.
So-
loud.
Page
On
7.
Easton Road, those things are loud.
Correct.
Cool that building right there.
But those aren't data
I know
centers
they're not,
and they're
but
not
it's,
under
that's
our,
why it's,
yeah, but how does those,
zoning.
how do those compare to this? Like, just as an example.
right.
Any of
I
those
was wondering
existing
that myself.
warehouses that are on Easton Road, what's their decibel limits that they're allowed to maintain relative to what this has? So the noise pollution side of this is one thing that I would be concerned about. And then the other issue is the water consumption. You know, if it's gonna be sucking out of water from the aquifer and the groundwater, what is that gonna do to residents' wells in the vicinity?
Well, and I think
well, there
one of
is
the
a lot of
things,
stuff in here about the water
I-
usage and
There's a lot
protections
covered
and
I do see
testing.
that.
but I think the
If
one thing
we
that's
have
lacking in a
specific-
lot of this is the requirements, but reporting, making sure that every year there's some kind of report coming back, if one was to come in, some of the water use capacity and efficiencies from what you're saying. And then, making sure what's the air quality, how are we generating that as far as the code? But then, I don't see anything in there about hazardous materials. They are full of battery storage. So how's that disposal? How are, they don't talk about that. What happens, right, what happens with spills? PFAS, fire suppression, battery, this is some of my notes.
The state has a lot of regulations that include all this stuff that you're talking about. So
But-
they refer in here to the state regulations for a lot of things. So I would assume that everything in those state regulations has to be covered by a developer.
I don't know, but
Well, I mean,
from,
that's what-
just
that's what
looking
I
at the
was
code, I wasn't doing deep dive research into what the state had. I was looking at our code and some things that I was aware of. So,
You do make a good point, and again, from the PSATS boot camp, there was a conversation there from Lehigh County Emergency Management, where facilities like this have to report to the county what potential hazardous materials that they have for fire suppression, because there's not nickel cadmium batteries and things like that, so
yeah,
if a fire would break
lithium,
out, how do they
lithium-ion.
manage that? That requires a different thing, so that's something for Lower Saucon Fire Rescue to take into consideration as well. If we have the apparatus and the training, if in case this goes up and you're dealing with batteries sparking all over the
When a plan
place.
comes through, they do review it, just like the police as well, but the Lower Saucon Fire Rescue does
Make su-
review the plans.
Make sure that they can respond to that facility's
Right.
needs.
And have it.
Because they need to know, yeah.
that's a good
So,
point.
so where does this go next? Back to council? for
It goes to
conversation?
LVPC and it's gonna come back
I'm
for
sorry,
Lehigh Valley Planning Commission.
Okay,
I don't know when that's supposed to be back.
okay.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to do it within a month. I'm not sure
But was
if we'll have it
commented.
back.
But this,
our
is
next
this
council
going to be a
meeting?
Lehigh Valley planning document or a Lower Saucon Township?
Lower
This is
Saucon.
our
Saucon.
ordinance.
So what I suggest we do here is perhaps we might have some more general conversation about people's concerns, but at some point, we should start compiling a list of specific recommendations so that we're not just discussing things, but not rendering some advice to the planning commission for items that we think should be considered and added as appropriate. Does that seem sensible?
I'm not positive how much time we have, though, like, if it comes back from LVPC, I don't know when we intend to advertise it, so.
Well,
What
I
do you
see
mean,
in here
what do
they
you
have,
mean advertise it?
For
When
the
you're
ador-
putting
ordinance.
in a zoning ordinance, you have to advertise it and have a hearing to adopt it, so.
Public.
This could come back to council in March.
Okay, but if we make recommendations to Lehigh Valley Planning, then that goes to,
No, this
No,
would be
you would make
to
it to
us.
council.
Would be
okay, then I
council.
think we,
Yeah, they give us recommendations, we don't
Right.
really give them recommendations.
okay.
How would you recommend that we get our thoughts together and present it to you being council when I say you?
I would say by next March meeting, we should have a written response.
Okay.
that would have to go
From-
through
If we
this
think-
planning commission.
Our EAC
No.
Right.
should provide a written set of recommendations or questions,
Suggestions.
concerns
Suggestions.
back to council before,
Okay,
you know.
okay, so we get to recommend directly to council. Right, okay. I think we should, for sake of minutes, start compiling a list if people have strong concerns about something. And if that's the case, I'll start by making a couple of suggestions. One is, I didn't see any specific reference here to carbonate site assessment regulations. The township has carbonate site assessment regulations, so I think we should specifically say that site assessment should include the carbonate area evaluation regulations. And they're already written and in place. So, but to specifically mention that should be part of the site evaluation. Because before you can put plans forward, you have to have carbonate terrains evaluated by a professional geologist
Okay.
for carbonate considerations. It's all spelled out in existing regulations.
Is that
of the
for
township.
sinkholes?
It's the whole, I mean, sinkholes are a big part of it, but it's the entire carbonate assessment, which addresses issues like lineaments, which can affect sinkholes, which can affect water flow in carbonate terrains as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Location of springs and seeps, closed depressions, which aren't technically or necessarily sinkholes, but maybe precursors or places where water will run off to and collect and infiltrate the subsurface.
So let me
So we have those regulations right now. If unless something has changed in this township, If you wanted to put a swimming pool in your yard and you live within the carbonate mapped area, a professional geologist has to evaluate that site according to the regulations of the carbonate. I would say carbonate ordinance, but I'm not sure if it's technically an
Yeah,
ordinance.
I'm not sure,
It's maybe a section or something like that.
right?
So are we able to, in our next meeting, go through our items prior to March's council meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can send them to me, like we just did the goals, and I can make a list.
Right.
It doesn't matter. But
Well,
that
I
way
would
my
start
family-
sort
I
of
would
making a
like
list
to
now.
ask,
We're
well,
prepared.
I would like to ask that if we're going to share, that we share it in a shared document, because I found the goals, no offense, Kathy, because I couldn't see what other people were doing.
That you weren't supposed to.
Well, I
That's
like to see.
That was the point.
We've had this conversation before. I just don't know how to do it.
I can do it on my OneDrive, you can do it on a Google Drive, I mean, if it's,
Yeah, I understand.
it's just something like this, just to get it consolidated. I agree if you want to proceed, I'm just saying so that we get it written up.
Right, but I think we should start hitting some points now as the basis for the first draft, more or less, not a draft,
Okay.
but the first list that then we can look at and contemplate between now and the next meeting, so we're not sort of bumbling around trying to wordsmith a document. If we can start to articulate concerns now as a starting point. Some things might go hand in hand that we could combine in a sensible recommendation.
How much time do we need to advertise? Lead, is it
Huh.
30 days?
I think they advertise them for 30 days, but the thing is, you don't advertise it before you have it worded how you want it to be
Yeah,
worded.
I get it.
And I'm not sure, so our EAC meeting ends up being like a week and a day before a council meeting, so if we're gonna try to get input at our March meeting, we'll have to,
Hopefully we'll have the
we'll have to
LVPC
be
back by then.
ready
We
with
can-
it, yeah.
We can have the EAC's recommendations before that meeting. We can hopefully finalize it at the March council.
Be nice.
That's optimistic.
So you're
Kathy, are you
concerned-
taking some
I
notes
am,
that you'll
I
start?
But I
am.
don't want to
discussing?
wait on this.
I was just gonna say.
I don't want to wait on this because the momentum out there right now,
Right. I think we should start getting a list together and then
Right.
figure out how efficiently to bring that forward. So I'll make another suggestion here that, that can go in anywhere within the water resource. If there's something here and you read it and I missed it about this issue, let me know. But I think there should be a statement that says subsurface injection wells shall not be employed or utilized to dispose of wastewater. Because there could be an assertion made in a case like this that the wastewater is clean, but thermally altered. And so, if there's not a specific regulation on that, I could see someone saying, well, we're gonna inject wastewater in the subsurface, but it's just going to be warm water. It's gonna be the same water quality, but warm water is still, temperature is a pollution, is a pollutant.
Can you say that again, please?
So I would say subsurface injection wells shall not be employed to dispose of wastewater. There's a lot of reasons for it. Thermal pollution, the other is when you inject water or collect water in a carbonate landscape, again, for areas that are within a carbonate area that can generate surface instability and sinkholes, and they can propagate laterally. So those sorts of things, once you inject water under the surface, you can't control normally where it's going. And so it could transfer materials and surface instability well off-site. I'm not asking you to write all of that down as
No, no.
rationale.
I'm just looking at my saltwater
My
notes.
concerns.
That's fine. You had a point about the batteries.
Yeah, I have it, I can send it to you,
Okay.
maybe that would be easier, because I have 6 points that I
Wonderful.
wrote
Okay.
up.
And also the noise.
The noise is addressed.
Well, it is
It's
addressed.
just-
Rest, I didn't, Now, I mean, there's nothing in there that does limited on testing hours, you know, that could come with discussion, you know. These are just recommendation, and
It's specified in here
It does.
that the noise at the boundaries of the land where this thing is gonna be built has to be a certain decibel. Now, whether that's good enough, I don't know, but I think there's also a little thing in there that says that if it's not good enough, if the neighbors complain, they can go back and revise it. So that's good.
Page 7.
And then they also talk about vibrations, which is another thing. And there's a spec in there about vibrations. They don't give you a number, they just say that the vibrations shall be such that a normal person cannot feel any at the boundaries of the land. You know, and then the smallest size for one of these things is 10 acres.
I saw that.
So the boundaries of 10 acres would be pretty big, but then you could have a huge building in there too, so. Now, the one thing that I wanted to say is that there's two ways of getting water. You can get the water from,
4,000. It's a lot of water.
like a city water, like from, you know, piped in from like Bethlehem.
Right.
Or you can have your water from wells on your site, depending on where the thing is located. There's a lot written in here about testing the wells and to be sure that there's enough water for the facility to do what they want to do with it. And they also list specifically some contaminants, quite a few actually, but
Hang on,
The one-
Alan, just on your first point, what the water, page 8, it says Water Resources Impact Study. And then it says, a water resource impact study shall be required for all data storage center developments with an anticipated withdrawal of 4,000 or more gallons of water per day.
that's like the minimum. In other words, anything less than that, they don't have to
Yeah,
do
they
it.
don't have to do the
Don't
test.
have to do it. But 4,000 is not much. Not for these guys.
Well, not for these guys, but for a well. Yes, go ahead.
So anyway, the thing that I would like to see put in here is that in addition to the specific pollution contaminants that they mention, I would like them to add one called gross alpha. Now, gross alpha will test for like uranium and radon. And of course, if there's radon in if it comes out positive for gross alpha, then that's an indication there could be radon in the water. And since the water is going to be used in the facility for potable water for people to drink, I think there should be, you know, a regulation in there that requires them to test for radon in the water, or gross alpha, and then they have to, of course, go along with what the state regulation is for gross alpha. And the state regulation with the MCL, the maximum contaminant level, happens to be 15 picocuries per liter. I mean,
You'll have to put that in writing, I think, for Kathy's list.
I got most of it.
well, just say that
I got it. Gross alpha, radon, and radon.
just say that they should test for gross alpha,
I got it. I got most
which
of it.
includes radon and uranium. There's a lot of other things besides radon and uranium, but gross alpha just covers like the most common. If they find a lot of gross alpha, then they'll have to do more testing. But you don't have to write all that up.
All right,
That's all
I
in the
got it.
state.
No, I got it.
That's all in the state regulations.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Was that, the threshold for the water assesses 4,000 gallons a day? Is that what it was, or 40,000?
4,000.
Four, page
Just to
8.
put that in perspective, to do that, you need to pump at 2.78 gallons, or 2.8 gallons a minute. that's not a significant pumping rate. So that threshold is
Live
pretty
on
low.
fossil.
That's
To
my house.
require-
Yeah, that's my home
That's,
Yeah.
pump.
Yeah.
that's a
But running
requirement
constant.
Running
evaluation.
constant, yeah.
No, that's- yeah, so that, just to assuage anybody's concerns.
But they're putting that water back into the ground then, though.
Maybe, I'm not sure what all
Because-
they're doing. They're probably using it for cooling water, and then what they do with it is still remains to be seen, right?
Because on page
On a
six,
site-by-site basis.
on
so-
page 16 at the top, it's talking about 90% of return of water to the aquifer.
Well, what's the context? I mean, what's it all about?
Well, that speaks to Drew's concern about temperature. Because if it's 90% expectation of return to the aquifer, that's where we run into the temperature concern for return.
Yeah.
Yeah, which brings up a good point, because then they need to put a requirement on the cooling requirements, which aren't in there. And then, can things be reused or recycled as a means? I mean, that's a thought. So the water, just like you do at a car wash, recycling it.
Well,
Well,
we
just like you
happen
do
to
at a
be,
nuclear facility.
we
Yeah,
happen to
because
be,
what happens when we have a drought condition?
we happen to be in the Delaware River watershed territory. They control all that. They have a lot of power. So these people, the engineers, know that. And they know they're gonna have to get permission to what they do with the ground, with the water that they suck out of the ground or they put it back in. The Delaware River Watershed Authority would like you to put it back in the ground. Because then eventually goes back into the Delaware River, that's what they're worried about.
It's dirty.
Well, they
So
think it'll get
they
cleaned up.
regulate what it has to, what water standards would have to be. What I'll do is, I have friends at the DRBC, Delaware River Basin Commission, and I will, engineers and scientists, and ask them what their regulation is for thermal disparity between the groundwater temperature where they may be disposing, or if they're disposing any to surface water systems. There's a delta water temperature that they have to stay within. So in other words, it's variable. I mean, these power plants on the Delaware River, for example, return cooling water back to the river, and it's above the ambient water temperature, but it's not unregulated. They have limits on that. And so I can reach out and find out what those are, in particular with respect to groundwater. And then I can suggest to you language to that effect, because I don't know what the temperature differential that's standard practice is. And anytime you kind of make recommendations against standard practice without a very compelling argument, you usually don't get that incorporated. So I'll go to DRBC and see what their
And I think
standards are.
we're also, the township's coming in at a point where there's a lot of municipalities that we cannot recreate the wheel. So a lot of things we're recommending, we can be sure to incorporate for the safety of the township. Now, will it ever happen? We don't know. We're just making sure that if it does.
Yeah, but you want that
Yeah, we
in
have the
place.
foundation in place, so.
The Lehigh Valley Planning Commission has just published a new study that was paid for by Lehigh County. And it's designed to educate us, well, not just us normal people, but people like you who are on the council, who have to make decisions as to all the different things that you should be considering when you make ordinances to control the development of data centers, what they call high-tech manufacturing, and a couple other high-tech type businesses that they're afraid of being built in the Lehigh County, Northampton County area. So if you go to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission website, on the homepage, it's right there on the first page. I started reading it, and it'll answer a lot of your questions, and I didn't get to the part yet where it gives specific numbers. What they're talking about is general strategies you should be thinking about to try to control with your ordinances. It's a big job. but it's, we ought to read it.
All right.
Does anybody have other concerns or suggestions at the moment? And otherwise, if things come to your mind after this bit of conversation, pass it on to Kathy. Does that seem sensible? Okay, that's how we shall proceed. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we have a couple of agenda items that go in sequence, more or less. So these are, again, would be recommendations to council. And they're in response. This is item, new business, item C. Given that the new bylaws now require that only one voting member of council can be on our committee. So then
You have a microphone?
So we have two members on council at the moment that have voting status. So one solution to that is to, in essence, reclassify a voting member to an associate member. And so Laura Ray and Chad have, both have full member status, and
All right, come on.
I know, we already did that. I won.
She won.
I had suggested that the two of them talk and come to a resolution, and if I have it right, Chad, you're going to be, if we recommend that, you'll be,
Yes, that's my
an
plan.
associate member.
I'm stepping down from voting membership.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you all for your opportunity. I'm
You
not
were
going
so
anywhere.
excited.
No.
I know. Now I can't make
Now
motions
you
to
can't make
adjourn.
motions to adjourn.
I
I'm sure
know.
you'll be back into
But
it
I'm not
at
going
some
anywhere.
point.
Okay, then that creates a vacancy immediately. And normally to fill a vacancy for a full member status with voting privileges, we go to people who are on this committee as associate members, and normally we look at the duration at which they have been in associate member status. And so Russell is the person that has been a longstanding member on this committee. I'm sorry?
He's already a voting.
We already moved him up.
I know where I tripped up here. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. You were starting to wonder if I was gonna suggest that we move you to associate status as well. No, I apologize for that. What I meant to say is Winfield Clark is an associate member for a significant period of time. I could go back and look. Winfield joined this committee in January of 2024, and he's active on the committee. So I think it makes good sense for me to suggest that, or to nominate that Winfield Clark be raised to full voting status.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Who was the second?
Okay, congratulations.
Thank
If-
you.
Voting?
If,
You're not voting.
Am I still voting tonight?
Not
No,
as of a
anymore.
minute
You
ago.
got, you just got
Okay.
You're a
demoted.
pleb
Well, it's
like
just
me.
a recommendation.
Doesn't
You're up-
matter.
you're up next.
We're plebs.
You're up next.
I didn't know if I had to vote or not on that one.
Thank you, everyone.
Aye.
Thanks, Chad.
So the next order of business, that of course opens an associate member position. And we have two applicants for that position. And we will refer to them as applicant number one, applicant number two. And
was which?
applicant, I'll just hit the highlights here of applicant number, if anyone didn't read these. Applicant number one is a retired science teacher who expressly is interested in the Environmental Advisory Council, as opposed to, say, perhaps having a second choice, just wanting to serve the township. This individual wants to serve EAC. This person's a 41-year township resident, has 30 years of experience as a science teacher, including teaching environmental science, and has for 1 year been a Penn State University Master Watershed Steward. And so the statement that was presented was, as a longtime resident, lifelong environmentalist, I'm interested in preserving township resources, helping to recommend best management practices, and promoting viable approaches to natural resource protection. That statement comes under the heading of, please tell us why you would like to serve as an appointed volunteer on a township board or commission, and describe your vision for Lower Saucon Township's future, okay? So this strikes me as a very strong candidate. And then just briefly, the other candidate number 2, expressed a couple of possible committees to serve on with respect to skills, abilities, and experiences relevant to board or commission applying for. There really weren't any environmental components to that. And then with respect to describing a vision for Lower Saucon Township's future, there was really no description of a vision at all. So having said that, I assume everyone has read these, voting members, and it seems to me that we should recommend to council that candidate number 1, as described, should be asked to serve as an associate member of this committee.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that should bring us to a full committee for the moment, and so we'll start there and pick up any pieces thereafter. The next item of new business is item F, establishment of a date for the 2026 electronic recycling event. 2 dates that seem to work for the electronic recycling folks are May 16th or September 19th. And then we would designate a chairperson, so. September? Yeah. And we've normally done that in the fall anyway, right?
Yeah, we,
So that sort of accommodates spring, summer cleaning as well. Okay, so let's choose the date, September 19th.
May 16th is Heritage Day, too. So
Oh, my
it's
God.
a good day to
Oh,
vote.
yeah.
thank you for remembering
I thought
that.
it was, and it
Yeah,
is.
it's too soon anyways.
Yeah, it's too soon.
That's tomorrow.
All right,
Okay.
so we'll do that, and then does anybody wish to serve as chairperson for that event? And we do have some time to flesh that out. I think one thing that's always nerve-wracking about trying to do such things is when you're looking 8 months out, it's
Yeah,
hard to know what's in your world. So let's just put that on sort of the back burner, and as we approach that,
I don't
we can
mind
look at.
doing it again,
Okay,
so you can pencil me in.
so let's pencil Jennifer, and that's great. And then we'll, I'll talk to David and make sure that there's nothing else going on
Okay,
in your
please.
life, you know. So, okay, very good. Thanks for stepping up on that. That's always very important. Okay, that brings us to subcommittees. And Open Space Goals Subcommittee, that's my item to discuss. And I had sent around some ideas for things that we have to address. Some of this is just self-evident, what we need to do. And there's a lot. And then on the other hand, too, there are a lot of us. There are 6 of us on that committee. So what I suggest we do is we can meet as a committee, the entire committee first, and I'll get an email string going around to us to find a date and a place for that soon, okay? And the items that, and I think we would break into subcommittees and work, and then come together periodically, so we're always discussing what we're doing so working as 2 subcommittees that are working hand in hand to make quicker progress, but not in isolation, okay? That's my intention. And so one thing that's we definitely need to is update the written plan and the purpose of the open space program. We did look at the referendum, and so we have to operate within those constraints, but I think we can better articulate how funds can be used within those constraints. I think it would be helpful to try to clarify that to some extent. And then so I think that's kind of one big piece. That's a lot of work. So I'm at the moment thinking one subcommittee focus on that, and that the other subcommittee, the other aspects of this that are important is we've talked about how can we communicate with the township residents about this program to make sure people are aware of it. Perhaps, as we've done in the past, look at the open space, preserved space, and look at other parcels that either are maybe adjacent and or large parcels, or parcels that, because of their geography and natural features, may be sensible targets for conversation. So I would suggest that we get the data and maps from the zoning officer showing the open space properties. Most of these things, we already have these on file, but there may have been some updates. And then furthermore, the Open Space Committee has evaluated a couple properties. I believe at least some of them have been assessed, and I believe that the township reached out and made an offer to residents who then chose, for one reason or not to participate. So that kind of information is not out there in our existing maps, but I think the subcommittee needs to take that into consideration and consider whether we not target certain individuals because of that, or maybe if we have some knowledge of what their concerns or issues were, maybe we could sensibly address it. And therefore then try to identify properties to target for possible open space assessment, and to plan communications with any, what we consider to be sensibly targeted property owners. And then also, I already mentioned this, just to have an education session for all township residents who are interested to explain what the open space program is. And perhaps to just, develop a plan for having that program, but to get the word out to township residents to invite them to come and learn about the plan. And then the last thing I said was, well, what else? So when we meet as a group, I think between now and then, the 6 of us should be thinking about what else. And if you're not on the open space committee and you're thinking of what else, contact me and let me know what you're thinking, and we could then put that on our agenda and move forward. Anybody have questions? Does it sound sensible? Okay, and we'll get this moving. I'll get an email out now that we know who is on this committee for 2026. I mean, that was one of the holdups, is things were in flux. Okay, then I think you have a very brief remark, Chad, regarding stormwater management.
Well, we just hit one of them.
Yes.
With our road salt presentation, we
Yeah.
just hit one of the MCMs.
Yeah.
With public outreach and education on some, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job, everybody.
Okay, very good. And then we have a developer item, which is a request for EAC review of Menlo Easton Land Development. We received the site plan via PDF. I came down early to look at the plan on the planning sheets, because when I zoomed the PDF, it was still illegible to me. And so the documents are here if anybody wants to look at them, if there were particular issues that you wanted to raise about them. But we should discuss this, and if we have concerns, we can, of course, raise them and make recommendations to town council on this. At this stage, it goes to town council. Is that true, Laura? Not to the planning committee?
Well, it does go to planning as well, but
Okay,
I don't know what order.
but we don't recommend to planning, we recommend to council, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I know some people have concerns already, and if we want to take a pause in a moment and look at some of the document in a format that's large and readable, let's do that.
Yeah. Do you want to just put it on the table here, or what? Sometimes
Yeah,
we would
we've-
do it that way,
we've
so
often
that
done
when
that
we're
comment that way, yeah.
making comments, you can
Okay.
point what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
so-
we
so
can make
Kathy,
some
or
room.
would you bring that whole packet over to the center of this table, please?
Do we put this off for a month?
I don't know what the
Don't
time
think
frame
so.
is.
Because the developers keep,
It's
I mean,
moving.
there's timelines when you have to get back to them when they,
Right, it's always, that's what it always is, and they give it to us at the last minute.
well,
This is the
that's
first
the point.
large storage facility that that a developer has wanted to build in our township.
Yeah.
And partially because we only
gonna
have,
get to
there's only
drive
like
past
two
it every single
areas
day.
zoned potentially.
So, you know, like, how much experience do we have of even thinking about these things? Let alone we have to make our decision in
I have
half
right
an hour.
So that's Route 78,
This will
that's
go to
Eastern Road
planning
right there.
commission and then the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission.
And the engineers have to do it too. Our township engineer has to
The
look
ones
at it.
across the road, those are in Bethlehem.
The ones
Yes.
across the road are
So one thing to
Bethlehem.
point out, this one is along Easton Road, but in the township. So it's in the south side, as it were, of Easton Road.
It is currently
It's right where Mockingbird Lane,
Mockingbird Hill.
Easton Road. And the western side of this property is an open field with
So
a
the-
house and a residence I
horse
think will
field.
be demolished.
The
I'm sorry?
church is right here,
Yeah.
Church is
right?
right here.
Yep.
There's a
This
church
is that
across from the one
farm.
end and
And
then,
the baseball field is
Baseball
over
field.
right,
here.
and there is a large warehouse across the road. There's that whole warehouse complex that used to be the Coke Works
Coke Works,
footprint. But this is on the south side of Easton Road, that is Lower Saucon Township. That's that's the distinction between all of the others. This is in
So
our
there's that.
township.
So they purchased this residence here, I take it?
Yes, all this.
And they purchased this
Yeah.
residence here, I take it?
Parcels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how big?
It's a big horse
Wait,
pasture
is
right
the
now
residence,
here.
the residence
This is
towards
all
the
forested.
northeast, I'm not sure
I
if
think
that
they're
one was
planning on keeping
purchased.
this.
Uh,
And
Is
as
it
far
show
as I
up
know,
in the
the
development
plan
site?
is
Because I
that
think
they're
there's
keeping
a,
as much of the natural
we're
vegetation.
talking about two different places.
big
There might be two different places.
It's 112,000 square feet something.
How does that compare with the ones across
And-
the street?
My house is like right over here. So I use this all the time. I'm gonna get to look at this building constantly.
right?
But they got rid of the
So,
horses, they don't have the
Mockingbird
horses
Hill,
anymore.
you know, there's the church and the cemetery, and then the cemetery's over here in the ball
And the
field.
ball,
Yeah,
So
so
again, note everybody where the edge of the existing vegetation is,
vegetations, yeah,
okay?
yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Vegetation.
And these are markers that they're removing trees, so I'm not sure what's going on here, but over here, it doesn't say it on this one, but there's another one that shows that. Now, this is your slope distribution.
What kind of a slope? Is it mostly flat?
Steep slopes, 8 to 15%.
Yeah, it's
You know,
sloping down to the
uphill.
roadway here,
Okay.
78 is up here.
Okay.
Environmentally
down.
sensitive.
I think there's about a 50-foot elevation change from the southern margin to the north margin, give or take.
Okay,
Yeah. I think it might be fair to call it 50 to 60 feet
but I
roughly.
don't know what this dark purple is.
Uh,
They don't have a mark.
Environmentally
Oh.
Environmental sense.
Environmentally sensitive.
So what's the difference from that
That's
purple to
environment
that?
disturbed steep
Oh,
slope,
okay, sorry.
existing steep slope.
Okay,
That's the slope they're gonna make.
yeah.
The thing that bothers me the most about this plan is the entrance from Easton Road to this facility. Make sure you look at that when you get to that part of the drawing.
Okay,
Right.
The trucks,
Yeah,
you know, that's all have to-
That's a non-environmental.
That's not an environmental.
This is like the
Because
tractor
really, we
trailer's
should be
gonna-
commenting on the environmental concerns.
Yeah.
Proposed
township
limit of
needs revenue.
disturbance line,
Yeah.
so
Where is it on the drawing?
it's the
It's right on
orange
the-
dotted
it's on-
line is the proposed limit of disturbance line.
Right,
So there is a wooded area to the east that they're leaving.
yes.
yeah, right here.
So everything behind this residence
Yeah, it's
currently,
gonna all stay.
so the guess is at some point they'd like to purchase this and then they
I
might have
don't
a
know.
plan at some point in the future.
I would hope not,
Probably, more than likely.
More than likely. If I were the developer, that's what I wanted.
but understand that there's
Yeah,
a
Easton Road.
zoning
Road.
modification to this
coming off of
LM to
Easton
change it to an
Road.
LM1, which would reduce
Wonderful.
Well,
potentially,
it's
This
not
is
gonna
on a
affect
different
this.
drawing.
not this,
Yeah,
must-
not
yeah,
this.
must be a
Not this
different
It's
drawing.
not part of the one.
but you know
There's no
what, I don't
entrance.
know, make it a gas station, I would love to have a gas station.
Right in the beginning here, they
Well.
show.
I'm sick of having to drive into Hellertown to fill my tank. We don't have a gas station.
We're not gonna talk about gas stations, we're talking.
I'm ready to talk about whatever I want. I don't want a gas station. I'm ready to set up here. We have no commercial.
Here, here. Look at that entrance. Tractor trailers coming in there.
Yeah, well, what?
If one of them gets stuck, and they stay on Easton Road, that blocks the whole road.
Blocks the
One
whole
tractor trailer.
Well,
There's already entrances
you
to
had
the
the
other
same thing
side.
going on down at
Look at
the
how it curves
Sportsman
around.
Club.
It's gotta go around 180
Well,
degrees to get in there.
You know what? You need to come to the planning board meeting and discuss
Well,
that.
I'm not gonna go to the planning board meeting.
Everybody's getting grumpy
wanted to let
quick.
you,
You notice
I
that?
wanted to let
It's
you
almost
know.
bedtime.
Man, everybody
Anybody as a
needs
whole,
a
this whole
Snickers
ring
bar.
Hey, I told Carol, let
The
him know
whole-
it's gonna be a
whole
longer
ring
meeting
road
We
than
have
around.
candy.
normal,
You
right?
want a piece of candy?
Where's that
Isn't there
Marcia,
an
Marcia,
exit?
Marcia? It's a Snickers bar, isn't it?
Facility or no?
There's
Is it,
always
is
an
it
alternate entrance
just this
for-
all the way down here?
Yeah,
for
just-
No, no, no.
emergency.
It's too bad they can't be set up
For
across
what,
from it.
for what
Is
goes
there?
across
I
the
don't, I only
street?
see the same,
That
I only
way
know
that
that the
would help
Eastern Road is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
only.
turning, but I don't think there is another access
No, I
point
believe
until
the
you get all the way
Eastern
down
Road's
here
the
and then
only
down
in
here.
and out on this.
Right.
Yeah, that's all you see.
Yeah.
That's all you
That's
see.
Mockingbird. That's all,
Mockingbird.
there's all you see.
This is the
Service
only
road
one.
off 78
I thought you had to
or
have
something
two.
like
I
that,
thought so
access
too.
road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
thought
way
you had
over,
two.
this way there is, but not over here. A service road is
'Cause if one gets
78?
blocked,
Yeah.
you got a fire, then
Temporary ones I've
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, on Countryside Lane,
Yeah.
but it's too
That's
far away. for-
Covered by other departments.
Keep going.
Yeah, but there's no creek,
if there's any water.
So,
water.
light pollution,
Okay.
that's environmental?
Huge.
Yes,
So,
and there was definitely
Again,
in
with
there
respect
something
to-
about the lighting, but
Farther in.
one of the
That showed you
considerations
diagrams,
of
yeah.
township residents there dealing with
They
light
sh-
pollution, and with
Yes.
respect to the development that's out of our township's control, which is Bethlehem, that light pollution is something that
Is
multiple residents have
Complained
complained,
about.
multiple residents in this area have
Yes.
complained about before our council.
Yep.
And so this brings the light pollution more directly into our lower Saucon Township residents' realm.
And
Right.
the noise
I was just
pollution as
gonna-
well also,
Noise,
for this
noise.
one, goes till 10 PM.
Right. And this is also
Whereas the
not,
data center ordinance, I believe, goes till 8 or
Can we
something.
change that?
So-
Can we, is that a recommendation
goes
for
to
council
nine.
or
What
not?
is
these
What is this,
So I would
this
like some
sheet
that are
talking
uniformity.
affected
about?
by this, go all the way up
Just as a
Mockingbird Hill
recommendation.
Road and other roads up on the
you really have
ridge.
to be an
Any
engineer
light
to know,
pollution,
right?
noise pollution is,
So
they're
how do
going
you-
to have to deal with.
Oh,
All
it
right,
just says
everybody.
It's hard to read upside down.
You have to
Utility.
focus. So how do we wanna say that if it's gonna go back to council or zoning? What's the concern is light and noise pollution? How do you wanna word it?
And are there other concerns?
What about the single entrance?
Yeah.
It's on just whatever.
Well,
It's
that
Still,
environmental
that's not an
Let's-
environmental thing, that's another department,
Oops.
so.
We gotta back up and we gotta address it. If we're gonna address light pollution and noise pollution, what are we going to say?
Well, it might help to see the lighting page.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Because that was tiny too.
Noise pollution and light pollution are huge factors on that road already.
Well, doesn't the township have an ordinance about light pollution? I think we went over this many times in the
There's a
past.
billboard, I think there might be billboard regulations.
Billboard
There was a
regulations.
billboard that
Not for
was
this.
going in down further.
Correct.
Further, yeah.
That was
Correct.
illuminated.
I thought they
This
required
one's
you
the
gotta have certain
landscaping
kind of
plan,
lights
just
that only
everybody
shine
take a look
down,
at that one.
all that kind of
I
stuff.
don't
You
think
know,
so.
they're trying to shield it a little
Shield the
bit.
trees, right.
Right, they're required to put evergreen trees in there as a buffer.
Are they native species?
They were listed in.
I
think
just
it
want
was
to,
this
like, that would be a
I'm getting
recommendation
I
from
have
us.
it, I have it.
And the,
Yeah.
The center.
Should be in the notes.
If we can,
It should tell you.
Common name, we have red maple, pin
Pin.
oaks,
A red bud,
red bud, dogwood, hawthorn,
They're all natural.
crab
crab
apple.
apple, sour wood tree, don't know what that one
I'm
is.
pretty sure in the
White cedar,
periphery they
holly.
did address that,
Yeah.
that native species
Now
were,
Kitty and Colorado
highlighted.
spruce are not native, but
No, they're not.
I don't know.
Oh, Colorado spruce is there?
Yeah,
Then
And
I
eastern white
retract those,
pine.
Stacy.
and they want 53 of those.
So that's what
Really?
they want to use for the evergreen
Maybe we
buffer,
recommend that
most
they
likely.
Right.
use native.
Native species.
I got it.
Okay.
Street trees shall have a minimum of 7-foot single straight stem to first lateral branches above ground level. The trunk diameter measured at height of 3 feet above the finished grade level should be a minimum of 2 inches.
so would we wanna specify instead of Colorado spruce, so what's the better
Here's your tree.
option?
Well, the township has recommended trees, so maybe
Right.
Yeah.
we reference that chart for an evergreen.
I know
What's
that
a
policy.
similar?
I don't
What
know,
is
I'd have
it,
to go to the,
Colorado spruce? Is that what we're?
yeah.
Yeah, take a picture of it with your phone, that table. You can take it home with you.
You're so smart, Alan.
You already have it on your PDF if you have.
If I have
superior
bionic eyes,
vision.
Place to make the
Yeah.
giant though, it's very hard.
Big magnifying glass.
no, it doesn't like
Blurry,
everybody.
actually, when you
It's
zoom in,
too
you can't read it.
Right. Well, you don't know where you are in the plan.
That's all right, I just wanna make sure I got the right tree.
Okay.
And the right tree is the Colorado spruce. Got it.
Purchase that one, Jenny.
Well, that's the one that's,
Well, I don't know what a
And the
sour.
plan that was submitted from them, I think it had something in it, but that would be something to consider. I don't see anything on here specifically.
So the question is, outdoor LED area light, where's our lumens? 12,000,
Yeah, but are they
54,000?
pointing down?
Point down where you're
Yeah.
facing, like,
That looks to be pointing up.
I know.
Did you
No,
notice the
that's
length and the
pointing
width of this building?
the lights
Yeah.
underneath.
Lights on
Yeah.
258
That's a down-
by
that's a downcast.
460 or something like that.
460, well, that's longer than a football field.
Yeah, yes.
Not small.
Right, is that right? This is about 258 by 460 or something?
Yeah,
right?
468, 260 by 468.
Okay. So I had my 8 and my 0 juxtaposed.
It's a big ass building.
Is that 2 stories high?
It's Lou.
I would think a minimum.
I know who it belongs to, we'll see if you get paid.
Okay. Oh, is this talking about the drive?
It's the driveway.
Yeah, this is what this is talking about.
What about the,
Look here.
what
this
about the
is-
fire trucks?
Well, right here, it's talking about,
Oh,
right
the
here's your
driveway.
fire truck
Okay,
and how it, whatever that means.
They figure their angle of
Direction
turn to
they
deal
want.
with a fire truck. Basically, they've done the math on what's required for a
Okay,
towing
and
truck.
then there's your 18-wheeler.
probably
So they're
tractor
saying
trailers.
this, it has capacity for both.
Yep.
So that meets both of those requirements.
That's what it says. I mean,
Yeah, it's hard to imagine they wouldn't have that.
Yeah, they've done their homework.
yeah.
Because you got a truck broken down, you can't get through.
I just think the one exit planning hopefully would be concerned with that.
When you think about it, when you have a house, you can't have just one egress. If you
There's
own
like
a house,
driveway
you can't
lines
have
you're
one
supposed
egress.
to-
You
Here's
have
the
to have more than
ENS.
one egress.
This is for stormwater management.
So,
We need to look at
you know,
this.
you build a huge old house, you don't have one way in.
Initial construction.
Fire hydrant.
Kinda
How are they gonna,
detention
there's no
ponds.
water out there. They're gonna bring water out there? I guess they're gonna have to.
How about
That's a good
stormwater
question.
runoff?
Yeah.
They can't tap into the Bethlehem lines across the street.
There's gonna be a lot of
Not
stormwater
very
runoff.
Pond in there.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's this.
They're gonna need a
Right.
lake, they're gonna have a
Connect to
basin.
existing water service.
Oh, that, okay,
Well,
then,
you have a basin.
that might be exactly what they're.
Yeah, they're gonna need a lake. Yeah, because all the parking, so
fields
look
don't
at how
have
big the
water
building
source.
is, 400 feet by 200 some feet, plus all the parking,
Plus-
the whole thing is
Right,
gonna
right,
be
Yeah.
So where's the existing water source?
It's gotta be.
impervious.
Can they
Yeah.
do that?
I don't know how to
They have to
finagle it,
get
but we
permission.
could use that parking lot here.
Yeah,
You know,
but I
that-
mean,
there's
part of,
still water over
As long as
there.
Bethlehem will let them use
There's
it.
this fire
Yeah.
hydrants,
Okay.
because
Well,
there's
that must be
warehouses
planned.
And
along.
this is on the same
On
side.
their
so
side.
people don't have to
So
walk
they're gonna
park
what,
on the
bring it
road.
under the road?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
bring it under the road.
If they've gotten agreements to do that, we
They
can
Bethlehem will let them meter it.
stop them.
Yeah,
Like, I would think that even when we.
at least you're not gonna
but I
drill-
think
drill
the
wells.
stormwater runoff
that?
needs to
At least
be
you're not gonna
addressed
drill
if we
wells.
can't find how they're, I don't know what the notes say.
Limit advanced clearing and grubbing operations to a distance equal to 2 times the length of pipe installation. Work crews and equipment for trenching, placement of pipe, plug construction, backfilling will be self-contained. It goes on, soil excavated from the trench will be placed on the uphill side of the trench. Limit daily trench excavation to the length of the pipe placement, plug installation, and backfilling that can be completed in the same day.
Stormwater,
Water which
Management.
accumulates in the open trench
Runoff.
will be completely removed by pumping before pipe placement and or backfilling. Pipe placement, trench band, the disturbed area will be graded to final contours. That's just,
This one's all
Did we
sediment
say the
control.
dimensions of this place was 260 by 458?
468.
468.
121,680 square feet plus or minus.
121,000.
Is 680, yeah.
Okay,
See any problems on that?
And there's no presentation of the square footage of the parking lots and roadways, are there?
What should be on that page for the hard surface?
That would be one of the recommendations we could make, is that it's,
So this should be on
It's a
here somewhere
tremendously
calculated.
large area of impervious surface.
yes.
Correct, yes.
So, for permeability, for porous asphalt, for at least the rear parking facility, not where the heavy vehicles are gonna be in the front, which would probably be concrete anyways, but the back where the employees are gonna park could be porous asphalt. And I think that is, if you go back to our township's stormwater management guidelines for low-impact development, that is something that we suggest. So that might be a recommendation that we would like to pursue.
Which one's that?
Yeah, we're looking for anything that looks like those lines. We'll
It
figure out-
says stabilized construction entrance.
No,
No, there's another one.
because I'm looking to see if they've already
Temp
accounted for a porous
stockpile.
surface, because that is that is the parking
Well,
area
this
that
is
we're looking at.
ENS. That's not gonna be on, okay. None of these are gonna be on.
What is the thing, it says Hellertown something?
Quadrangle
That's
map.
just an overall.
Oh, okay.
Here's the stormwater, storm management after.
Okay.
Has, our,
Drainage area is this deep
The green,
green.
across this stream.
Catch basin?
How's, no, I don't
Is
know.
it
This one
green
is
infrastructure?
An underground
Is it
basin.
hardscaping?
That's the runoff capture, so this is where they look for a catch
runoff
basin.
capture.
Oh, okay.
The yellow is the catch basin.
Yeah, yellow
Okay.
switch basin.
And that's all
Did our-
level right now, so that's gonna have to be dug down.
Mm-hmm.
Laura or Chad, did our engineers look at this yet?
Yeah.
They're probably looking at it.
Probably.
Partially
And-
named.
and-
Didn't get a letter yet, you know, where
So you didn't get like any recommendations from them yet?
There was stuff that came back, but I don't remember what it said. I mean, again,
That's
we've
awfully
talked about
close to
rain
the road,
gardens,
too.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about green infrastructure for stormwater retention. If there's any recommendations we can make as far as that.
Mm-hmm.
How about
Do we
putting,
know what's gonna be
how
in
about
this
putting solar
warehouse?
panels on the roof?
Nope, they don't know. It
Yeah.
might be multiple facilities. It might be manufacturing. They don't know yet.
Sure, they would
The
love
tenant
that.
has not been decided.
Does the township have restriction
to put a
on
structure
what
on
can
top.
go in there?
I don't know how
Meaning
they
it
do it,
can't
but
be
there's-
turned into a jail?
It's a big flat roof, you know.
I don't know about that.
No,
it's
that
not,
has-
it's
I
not
would-
defined
Expert
on
that
the,
the solar panel had put.
Yeah, I
Oh.
don't know. And that
What a
would really,
nightmare is that for the
really,
township.
Okay, just bring that up.
it's another
not for this
topic I do
meeting.
wanna hit.
yeah.
It's
I-
not for this
Keep an
meeting,
eye on
sorry. I mean, can we recommend solar panels on the
This
roof?
Easton Road's lost.
I don't see why we can't.
It's lost. It's right next to the
Sure.
interstate already.
Recommendations on
between
solar panels on the
Bigger
roof.
warehouses on the other side. What are you gonna do about it?
Alternative
Power source.
power
All you
source.
can do is hook the rest of it to their property.
And remember, they need to come during the hearing.
Well, there is, what, about 50 residents that are signed up on that. Easton Road. But again, it's too early.
Correct.
So, inlet boxes, we've talked about filters for those, potentially, that catch debris for the inlets. That would be a recommendation I'd write down. Ones that catch particulates as well as oil. And, you know, especially with these large steam,
Petrochemical runoff.
yeah, petrochemical, things like that.
That's a good
Especially
point.
the trucks.
Yeah.
Making oil.
You said something else, debris, oil.
Well, the
So
filters.
do we envision a motion
Other
where we
pollutants, I
make
don't know.
a recommendation to council to take into consideration the following concerns. And then we can put a list together.
Does that have to be back tonight from us?
What's that?
Soon.
Cause I don't think.
Probably, I mean, they don't tell us what the deadlines are, we can only assume ASAP, because
Yeah, but it's almost 9 o'clock
I-
already, and
I
this is
think
a
we should
huge
probably
plan.
list
but
concerns.
nobody
can't we?
cares,
Yeah.
nobody cares.
I think we should do it because if
You know, it's like whatever the
otherwise
deadline
we're
is
caught
for
sleeping.
the township to
If we
do
don't
their
do it.
review.
So we
I
have a
don't
number
know
of
where we are
concerns,
in the
that's why I
process
suggest
of
that we, phrase the motion that the Environmental Advisory Committee, wishes to recommend council to take the following concerns into consideration.
Right.
And then we just list.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's, I
there's-
think that would be
Was
sufficient.
a fair amount of things said.
I second.
And then we just give you the list.
You've got the power.
So,
One overarching thing I want to say about this is just a global comment, and that is, that I don't have to go back to say encourage council to take into consideration, we just said that. But township residents voted to preserve open space, and that real estate right now is open space, most of it is open space. And a large warehouse is the antithesis of that.
correct.
So I think
But unfortunately,
we would say,
it's-
take that into consideration.
But it's
zone
L1
light.
zone.
In other words, don't build it.
Okay, well, you can't do that though, sorry.
No, but take it into
I know.
consideration.
Because it's zoned.
Right,
Doesn't matter that it's zoned, it's the owners. It's not,
Right,
what
but
the
he sold
zone.
it 2 years ago.
He
when
did,
got-
it's too late.
It's too late, unfortunately.
I need everybody to read I will type this up, the minutes or the synopsis of tonight, and I need your feedback, because if we're gonna get this to Laura and Chad by next Wednesday, then you have to read it.
It has to go back to Carol tonight.
You have to give it to Carol.
So that I can send it to,
Oh, I can't get it done tonight, but I can get it done tomorrow.
it has to be spoken into the microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have to prepare it to give to, Jay, who will then pass it to council.
Will you be able to get this tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay. So I
Will you
think-
be able to take this in a written form tomorrow?
Read what your concerns are,
Okay.
and then I will transcribe and I will give it to Jay tomorrow.
Okay. So I read the one
It has to be in
concern.
the minutes.
There's many concerns.
Okay,
You
so
want
Read them
let's
out
hear them.
loud.
light pollution, noise pollution, native species, eliminating the Colorado spruce, porous asphalt, where the employee parking is, it's already in our stormwater management guidelines
For low impact development.
for low impact development, solar panels on the roof, and filters that catch debris, oil, or particulates
for the inlet boxes.
for the inlet boxes.
Waste basin, yeah.
And did we want to add petrochemical filters to that?
That should be part of that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be, because it's trucking.
We're gonna add
Chemical filters.
petrochemical filters concerns.
And if you want parenthetically, put in petrochemical filters, vehicle leakage or
Yeah.
something, if someone doesn't understand.
And also,
Wait.
the green infrastructure for the stormwater retention.
Yeah, and that water retention, that's flat, that has to be.
Say that again, Drew. Petrochemical,
Petrochemical filters, then parenthesis, vehicle leakage, vehicle fluid leakage,
did you get that, Carol? Vehicle leakage.
and then close parenthesis.
And then green infrastructure for the stormwater retention basin.
Did you hear that? Green infrastructure for the stormwater basin.
Using native species, again.
Using native species again.
Specifically.
Do we get them all? Light, noise, native species, porous asphalt for the employee parking, which is already part of our storm management guidelines, solar panels, filters that catch debris, oil, particulates for the inlet boxes, petrochemical filters for vehicle leakage, and green infrastructure for the stormwater basin using native species.
I had one more big thing here highlighted, simple, that the plan does not show carbonate, assessment for carbonate, regulations, for township carbonate regulations.
The plan does not show carbonate regulations.
Or carbonate development regulations, development of carbonate region, that's on limestone. This is on limestone and dolomite, the whole site,
Oh, is it?
and that should trigger that. But there's no, they only show a little sinkhole mitigation plan, but there's no carbonate assessment in this document, which implies one hasn't been done.
Anything else? All right.
Okay, so Carol and Kathy, you both feel like you have things down? Okay. Okay, let's move forward. Thanks, everyone. It is late. There are some things, I'm already looking ahead saying we could perhaps put off review of the January minutes till the next meeting. We have updates and reports. We can decide which of those are brief and doable tonight and which we may choose to move to the next month agenda. So let's work through them. Calendar events. Kathy, you think we should do that next month?
We can do that right this minute. So the top 5 goals that I got back from everybody were review and update open space and educate community, the recycling waste reduction plastic bag ban, research House Bill 1322 incentives for recycling, everybody who's interested in bees, butterflies, and bat houses, and review the water quality in Lower Saucon Township. What I did is made one for everybody. Then I put everybody's comments in here, not by your name, just by your comments. There were some special mentions that I'm gonna mention, we don't need to talk about them tonight, that people came up with that I thought were a good idea. 1, residential energy use, electric, solar, oil, or gas, have an educational speaker.
Where's that coming from?
It's
Okay.
From the black bag.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
1 was invite the,
Oh, I know what it is.
monitor Lehigh Valley Planning Commission Environmental Committee activities, invite the Pennsylvania Game Commission for deer, pests, wildlife problems, and updates for community members, political signage pickup date, which I thought was great, review trash haulers in the township and update resident information, and add a long-term project of research creating tools and appliance. The reason why I want to talk about it tonight is that we need to make the calendar of when we're going to make these goals. So, and then there is a Pennsylvania Land Conservation Conference, April 29th to May 1st in Lancaster. And then I also threw in here about Chem Suite. I don't know if the township, like for the pesticide guys and the agricultural and, not the agricultural, I'm sorry, I'm still one short, I'm sorry, Drew. I'll send you one.
Email me one.
The Chem Sweep is a rotating event, and Northampton County is involved. It's our turn this year. So the landscaper guys, those are the guys that need to get rid of any of their chemicals through that program right now. So I didn't know if that's something the township wants to address or not, but I threw it in there anyway. I'm done.
Laura Ray, Chad, single-use plastic survey, I think there's just a simple statement at this point, right?
Well, the survey's ready. I don't know if the QR code is hooked up to
Survey
the.
is live.
Okay.
It's out there, it's on the website.
Went through council.
I have posters out in the
I didn't see it on the.
community bulletin board.
Okay.
Yep.
So we can start sharing it.
It's on Facebook as of today,
Oh, as of today, okay.
and I can put it out tomorrow on Constant Contact.
Okay.
Awesome.
And sooner or later, the newsletter will be out, and that has
In
it
the
too.
newsletter, yes.
Hey, okay, cool.
Okay. Chad, anything on Lehigh Valley EAC? Is there an upcoming breakfast, or did that already
Yeah,
just
we're having
happen?
the breakfast this Thursday morning. 8:30, the Ham Fam in Allentown.
The
diner.
what?
The Ham Fam. You're not an Allentonian.
I'm
You don't
not.
know.
I am proud to say.
There forever.
The
The
Ham
Hamilton Family Restaurant at 2027 Hamilton Street.
Now that makes more sense.
Okay. 8:30 is what I got.
Wednesday?
Thursday the 12th.
And I think they wanted
Which is fun, because
RSVCs by
I'm gonna
today
go
or
have breakfast
tomorrow,
with
I don't know.
everybody, and then I'm gonna come have dinner here with everybody, so it's gonna be like, and you're all coming to that, right?
No,
Thursday
I'm
night?
not around.
No?
I am.
Are you coming?
Yeah, gymnastics.
Oh, gymnastics.
I'll
What do
be
you-
in
What is
York.
what is your sport at gymnastics?
Doesn't he look like a pole vaulter?
Are you really good at the balance
We're
beam?
just spinning and twirling.
You don't look like a twirler, Kurt.
No.
I'm a twirler.
I'll bet you are.
Okay, is that it, Chad?
That's the breakfast. That's the next event. I had shared an email, I think, with an clean air
Yeah.
topic with everybody. You should have gotten that email.
Yeah.
I don't remember the details of it off the top of my head.
Okay.
That's the only other one. That's all. The only update for the Lehigh Valley EAC as far as organizational is that Lynn Rothman from Bethlehem has stepped away from her position. She's relocating and moving from the area. So I am stepping up in some ways to help distribute some of the emails. And Rebecca from Lower Macungie Township has also assumed some responsibilities with administrative access. And we plan on the next steering committee meeting coming up within a month to do a full training session for people to go in, upload files, manage the calendar, revise the mailing lists, and the steering committee has been reorganized as well. So there has been some progress and changes organizationally. That's all.
Okay,
Drew, I have to back step for a second. Not tonight, but we need to, for the calendar, we need to set goals of when we want these events so that we can, put it out to the public.
yeah,
And can I add onto that one? That my lovely topic in there about recycling services in the township, that there's apparently from PSATs that if you have over 10,000 people in your township municipality, that you're supposed to provide curbside recycling.
Some do.
Yeah, but it's not something that should be optional.
Oh. Thank you. I think it is required.
okay, and then that,
But there are
next
sanitation
update,
companies that aren't doing
Lehigh
the
Valley
recycling
Planning
side of
Commission,
things.
do we have anything update?
I mentioned that they just published a new document that will help
Do they
people
separate it?
understand how to handle these
Yeah,
big
maybe separate it.
industrial developments that might take place, and this is what it says on it, and so it's on their homepage, the first page of Lehigh Valley Planning Commission.
Okay.
It says, the Lehigh County Industrial Land Use Guide, that's the name of the document. The Lehigh County Industrial Land Use Guide is a practical reference for planners, municipal officials, and other community stakeholders to better manage industrial growth and its impacts. So that's what the document is. So it's the thing that we have to read. We're gonna be involved with this for the next, who knows how long.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we, there's no, public comment or township correspondence? Do you wanna put approval of minutes off, or do we?
We might as well do it.
Do it?
I mean, the minutes were very short. I would make
Okay.
the motion to approve the minutes as
Okay.
presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
And we can put them on the website.
And so then we are adjourned.
Yes.
I
Need a
second.
motion for that.
A motion to adjourn?
Oh!
That's the power.
That's the power of the gavel.
Chair, you have the
Kathy?
power to
Kathy.
just do it.
Thanks, everybody, this was a long one, and, we got some things done.
That was a really good presentation.
Yeah. well,